Hey everyone, how's it going today? Yes, thank you for joining the semi-late live stream here. We are going to have a guest speaker here in the very, very near future. He's just working through technical difficulties. I just didn't want to make you all wait and sit there and stare at that beautiful thumbnail that he made, by the way, for too long. Let me just go ahead and say hello to the chat so far. We have, of course, the stalwart Metarog in the chat. Welcome, Sir Roger. It's great to have you, as always. Need Mo Comics, aka Sam Squatch, the Hearthstone extraordinaire. Welcome, welcome. Oh my gosh, we got the stars coming in today. Gray Man, how is it going? Super Russ 9000 coming in hot from North Carolina. So wait till my guest sees all these great faces in here. Appreciate y'all stopping by. I actually got a thumbnail to work with the stream. Oh, it's amazing. I seem to have two of them on the site for some reason. I don't know why that is, but hey, it is what it is. So yeah, basically what's going to be going on tonight is, for those of you who caught the last one last week on Derek's channel, is we're going to be going through parts 6 through 10 and Jason versus Freddy, or Freddy versus Jason. The films, basically the zombie Jason films, but we'll elucidate more on that once he comes in. So I figured I'd sit here and rap with you guys for a few minutes. So how's everyone's Friday going so far? Mine was quite productive. Unfortunately, it wasn't all fun and games. I spent most of it out in the garage today. I had to, well, I didn't have to, but I upgraded my headlights assemblies on my Harley to LEDs because the halogens just were not cutting it. They just weren't vibrant and bright enough, and that can be pretty dangerous around these parts with all the wildlife we have in our vast wooded areas that surrounded the roads, and it's always dark out here. There's no street lights, and so I figured it was time for the upgrade. So what should have taken about an hour wound up taking about 4.5 because of some bad fittings. So good to hear, Gray Man. You know what? I still need to shoot. I might do it tomorrow. I need to shoot that Dark Avengers video. I kind of picked out a few names. It's kind of hard though, man. If I'm sticking just to supernatural, and if you want them to be morally ambiguous or bad, it definitely makes it harder. I got some interesting names in here, I think. A couple of them technically are heroes or anti-heroes, so I figured they can somewhat count. But that should be fun. Plus, it's a good way to support the other channel. But yeah, team building is always kind of interesting, especially when you get to pull out some of the more obscure characters. Actually, you should let Medrog do that. He's the best at obscure characters. That man knows freaking everything. All right, we got a message coming in here. Hold on one second. Okay. But yeah, my counterpart's coming on. His computer is rebooting, and it's taking him a little bit of time. His mic wasn't working. Yeah, I'm gonna try to do supernatural. I mean, that's hey, I like it. I mean, I like restrictions. I mean, it's easy to say just make Dark Avengers, so basically just do a swap with bad guys. That's too easy. I like the little more difficulty. Like how often do I find a team where I can add Doctor Druid? I mean, come on now. I mean, talk about obscure. But I'm gonna throw him on there. That's just one of them. That's a little teaser of who I'm gonna use. But let's see who else is here and got stuff going on. Female Justice Leagues, huh? Huh. See, I'm a lot stronger on Marvel side than I am on DC, so that'd be a little bit difficult for me because I don't know too many female characters over in DC side. Okay. We have. He's trying to come on here. I'll add him. No visual yet, but we have a name. We have a name, people. We have a sighting. Gotcha. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I can hear you just fine now.
Okay. And I can hear you now too. A little bit of visual issue, but we're working through it.
Yeah, it's got red on start cam. My it should start up. Yeah, it's getting ready to
It's
come
kind of
on.
warm. It's got to warm up. It's warm. It's wintertime, you know. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
We have the
hey,
darkness.
I don't think Chris.
There we go. Look at that. I have visual, my friends. All right. Can you hear and see us okay?
Good visual, and so
Okay, perfect. And
I'm
I switched
good
over
if
to
you can fine.
sure can. And I have plugged in an Ethernet cable just for the stream, so hopefully we have some pretty good connection on my end too. I'm watching this on YouTube on the other screen, so now
Yeah,
that
and I
Derek
always
joins us tonight,
always
yeah, we got a kind of an all-star lineup of two right now. We had some other people scheduled, but we're not sure if they're gonna make it or not. So we're gonna run with this with the guys who talk best on the subject. So, like I said, for those who caught the show last week, we went over parts 1 through 5 and the Friday 13th remake, basically the human Jasons. And this week we're gonna be going over the zombie Jasons and basically everything else. So, Derek, why don't you introduce yourself to a couple of people here? They probably haven't seen your channel before. I know Russ was here last week and Need More Comics, but just tell them a little bit about yourself and your channel.
So I have a YouTube channel, Derek's Horror Corner. Really within the last 2 weeks, but I do like new Mondays where like people vote on what movie I'm watching, and then I watch it and review a movie I haven't seen. It was last Williams Suspiria will be coming out Monday. So I do new movie Mondays, which my subscribe my social media. I do Wednesdays where I review a major horror franchise every week. Omen just dropped my review of Omen the other day. Omen 2's coming out this week coming up. And next month I'm doing the Exorcist franchise. And then I also do ranking Fridays where my subscribers vote on a top 5 ranking video. And I do it. This one was really cool. It was a top 5 80 slashers. And I've already got a lot of people checking it out. So if you guys are into horror content, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I'm sitting at like 373 subs right now, so I'm really trying to push to get to 400. My channel pretty stagnant for a while, but I've been working really hard to improve my editing and make it better. So if you watch one of my videos, watch one of my recent ones. I think you'll be really happy with the quality. Not to say my old ones were terrible, but like the difference. You know, I think big to that if you watched any of my earlier videos versus like the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I watch it and I look at my old ones too before I add any different camera tricks and all. So that's to be expected. Let me see. I'm gonna go ahead and put a link to your channel here. Let me find it. For some reason, I didn't have it open. And then we'll go ahead and get started after that. Just so you guys can go over and give Derek a sub. He's like me. He's pushing for those subs. I'm right on the cusp of 300, but I just can't seem to push across that line. For every one I gain, I lose one. All right. Let's
That's
see.
how it's felt like for me for like the last 6 months.
I don't understand it, man. It's like whatever. All right. Okay. Here's the link. Let me add it to the chat.
December was just rough for a lot of people. I know Aaron said December was rough for him.
All right. So, yep, we have a couple here from the stream last week, and these are some of my regular viewers. So, without further ado, I think we'll go ahead and get into this. If you're ready, Derek, we'll go ahead and start.
Give me just a second to all my social I normally watch.
Okay.
I don't know where I'm aiming at. All sweet.
That'll work.
Uh, channel. I just got that note. Make sure you
Oh,
check
wow.
out some of my videos.
Freaking Roger coming out with the Dark Arc number
Yeah, I've
one.
just been having
Oh,
a lot of
there's a
fun
90s
with
thing.
like the stuff making lately. Like the videos I've been putting out with like my format for this.
Yeah, man. I love making the videos. This can be a little bit disheartening sometimes to put 8 to 10 hours into a damn
Give
video
me
and
just,
then get like 20
just
views,
a
but
second.
you know, it is what it is.
Because I want to be starting.
Uh-oh.
Have you heard about my wrong video?
No, but I
How
haven't been
many
around YouTube too
views
much
my
in those 2
I don't
days.
even know how, but guess how many views my wrong video has?
68.
It was like
Oh,
a
wow.
little.
I see that. Two, you got 2,000 views
I
on that
don't.
thing. What did you do?
It's 5,000 views. Wrong turn 3 review.
I, hmm. How'd you
I
manage
don't
that?
understand it at all.
There was what was his name? JPL, I
Well,
think
I
it
mean,
is. Hmm?
I edited it. Like I have like I don't know what it is. Wrong turn has its fan base, but
There's a comics guy named JPL, and he's a Brit guy, and he was usually hovering around 400 or 500 subs, and then somehow I don't know what caused it, but the algorithm attached his videos or his
talking.
channel to like I think it was Gangnam Style or whatever that song was, and his channel just blew up after that. It was crazy. Can you hear me all right?
Something weird like that. I don't normally get anywhere lagging for a minute now.
Yeah, the connection. I don't know if the connection's hurting over there. It's getting a lot of
Can you hear me?
freezes and a lot of delay. Yeah, I can hear you. It's just that a lot of times it's getting chopped
Uh-oh.
up. How's your connection over there? Is it all right?
Uh, I got it plugged in, and this doesn't normally have what is going on today.
Hopefully it's not my fault. I don't know. For what I'm seeing on, at least on the YouTube side, my
So
stuff
is
is
it
fairly
still
clear,
really
so I
choppy?
don't know.
Come out and come back in.
Maybe try to come out and come back in again because it's a huge lag and it's cutting frames pretty bad.
I don't know. We were clear.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what the issue is. Hey, True Horror Fanatic, how's it going? We're having a little bit of a lag issue here. Hopefully it's not mine. I know it's like Crystal Lake follows us around to the streams. Now it's sitting there trying to kill our stream. Maybe him coming out and coming back in will help a little bit. I guess we could drop and try it on his channel to see if it was any better, but I'm not sure if it's my channel though, just because it looks pretty solid from what I'm watching over here. But so we will try to get this started if he comes back and if his connection's a little better. Yeah, there's always technical issues. I know it sucks, doesn't it? Of course, we used to get those with Google Hangouts too. But okay, thanks, Roger. I appreciate that. I couldn't tell. I mean, it looks good on my end, but it's a local connection, so it's better to see what you guys out there on the interwebs can see. But anyway, I saw you posted your Darkhawk stuff, man. That's bringing it back '90s style. Oh, I'm the monkey boy. No, that's what my wife used to call Matt Smith, Doctor Who, the monkey boy. She's so mean. Comic collector, what's going on? What's going on? All right, good to see you. Good to see you. If my co-host will hopefully get his connection issues sorted out, and then we can get this ball rolling. Comic Intellect, how is it going, my friend? Good man, people are just rolling in now. And thank you, True Horror Fanatic Reviews. And he just said he subbed up to everybody, so everyone go there, make sure you're subbed up to him as well. If you see a name in here that you don't recognize, get over there and sub it up, because these guys are out there working hard to bring you great content at all times. I was actually it was Gray Man's idea to reach out to um, other genres of YouTube channels, and I figured since I was doing a lot of the horror stuff lately, I reach out to some horror channels, and so that's how this whole togetherness project kind of formulated, and that's what's hopefully going to be the fruition of more and more live streams here in the future as we go over some horror content. I go over basically everything as far as movies, but I also have a section dedicated to horror. So if it just made total sense. So you got a live tomorrow. Okay, so I'm so far behind on contests and all that. It's so hard to keep up with that stuff just because I don't really enter too many anymore because I don't really have time. I know, right? Tom Baker is the only real one out there. I mean, rainbow scarves and everything. It just says he was pretty good. I like David Tennant too. He was okay. I'm not a huge Doctor Who guy, but looks like he's getting ready to pop back on there. Let's hope it works. Derek, my friend, how we doing? How we doing?
I can hear you just fine. The question is my audio now?
I don't know. I'm not sure if it's even your audio. I think it might have just been connection issues. Maybe you're getting a lot of uploads and downloads there in your area or something. Maybe that's what's causing it.
It's raining and storming. That might be affecting it too here. That might be part of the
Yeah,
problem.
you sounded better than you did before, though. So maybe we'll have some luck here. Let's see. I'm just reading comments here.
Yeah, if you have trouble
So
hearing me, let me know in the comment section, guys.
all right. So we'll go ahead and I guess get this started. People have been just waiting, waiting, waiting. Yeah, I'm not sure what part of the state you're in, but it's actually dry here, Meteorog, believe it or not, for a change. It's cold, but dry. But yeah, anyway, for those out there waiting, we're going to be going over Friday 13th Part 6 first. This is basically, there was a couple different things going on with this movie, and the series had been on a somewhat decline of revenue at this point and was ready for a rebirth. So they went out and talked to Tom McLaughlin and kind of gave him carte blanche to write it however he wanted. He just had to bring Jason back because that was the big issue people had with 5 is there was no Jason in there. We talked about that last week. That was a very poor excuse for it, but whatever. So people wanted Jason back, so it's like, all right, give me Jason. So Friday 13th Part 6, Jason Lives was born, and so this is the very first one that was. This is like the first meta horror movie that I can ever remember. What'd you say on that, Derek?
I love that part of the movie. Like how meta it is so brilliant. Like think of how many movies this movie kind of influenced, like with New Nightmare and Scream, and then just so many other things. Like I think meta, if done the right way, is kind of the way to go because it's like when Jason's not around, this movie's still super fun because you have all the meta stuff and all the stupid jokes, like with the Gravedigger. Does he think I'm a fart head? And then the little girl's like, yeah.
So many great editing tricks in this movie. I'm going to, but yeah. So it was actually an injection of purposeful comedy and self awareness in this movie that had never been seen in the series before, and really it hadn't been seen in too many horror movies. Honestly, you had camp horror movies, or you had the serious tone horror movies, but there was never really much of a blending between the two. And this one said, we're gonna take Jason and we're gonna put it in a movie that pretty much breaks the fourth wall on multiple occasions. So kudos to Tom for that. If I find his interview, I'll go ahead and put a link to it down there. He's a real interesting guy and made what I consider the best movie in the franchise. Now, last week I made the qualifier saying I think Part 4 is the best Friday the 13th movie, the pure movie. And I think Part 6 is the best movie of the entire series just because it's so enjoyable to watch for anybody. It doesn't have to be a horror fan, I don't think. I mean, what's your take on that, Derek?
Yeah, like to me, part four is my favorite, but this is the only movie that I think can challenge part four for number one. Like they're kind of neck and neck for me. It just kind of depends what I want because kind of I like the Jason that runs more typically, but CJ Graham does a really good job as Jason in this movie. And if I want to see a zombie Jason movie, I think to me this movie's as good as Zombie Jason gets. And the movie is just entertaining because it has like that right balance of it's funny, but like the humor doesn't take you out of the movie. Like a movie that I think does this wrong, and I'm sorry if anybody likes this movie, is Scream 4. Like in Scream 4, they try to put humor, but like they put humor in the middle of kills at like really bad moments. But I think they do the humor in such a way that like when the movie needs to be serious in this movie, it can still be serious and it doesn't kill the tone for me. I think this one's pretty creepy and has good atmosphere and stuff too.
That's the other thing. A lot of people don't bring it up. Uh, Especially the first act in this thing, there's so much atmosphere. I mean, the opening montage in itself is completely well, it's an homage to like the old Hammer films and all, but it's so atmospheric. And there's this like the huge set that they had going on. And not only that, he has long lingering shots of the wood lines, of the fog encrusted lake or the fog effusing lake and all that. Just lots of little things that really makes like the atmosphere kind of oppressive, and it feels like Jason can be just anywhere, and he does that with a lot of little camera tricks like that. So uh, a lot of interesting screen or visual choices too. But yeah, just atmosphere in this movie is just dripping with it. All right, so all right, let's go ahead and get into it. So let's talk about first things first. What do you think of Zombie Jason, Derek?
I think Zombie Jason is really good because like it doesn't really make sense if you think about like how Jason would have like super strength and stuff, but I dig it. Like I love that Jason has like super strength and he can like punch through people and grab their heart and shove that girl's head through like the RV and all the and break the sheriff in half. Like I love how they gave like Jason like the really OP like super overpowered factor in this movie. I think it's just so much fun. You get so many good kills because of like Jason's super strength in this movie. And then he like since he's zombie Jason, you're like, how do you even kill him? You basically can't. So it adds like a new level of like fun to the series that we hadn't really seen up until that point.
Yep, I mean that's a good take on it, and it was also interesting in the fact that he's almost like Frankenstein. He reses with super strength, so it's just so fitting on a lot of homage levels too. But it opens up a lot of what he can do is as far as kills, and it actually suspends some of your disbelief. Like how can he take so much punishment? He's just a man, He's just a big mean man. Now he's a big zombie, so now it makes sense. He can take bullets and just shrug them off, and take hacks and all that. So. I was I'm always a little bit bigger fan of the human Jason, but it was really cool to see the zombie version of it. And it really I don't know, it just there's something I always visualize him just laying in that box for year upon year upon year, just slowly melting away. And him coming back, it's like what would a person like that think if he could think? I don't know. I kind of dig it. And this is definitely the best rendition of Zombie Jason, I think by far.
CJ does a really good job in this movie. Like CJ is one of the better Jasons, and I think he's definitely my favorite Jason that's not like human Jason.
Yeah, he has there's an authority about him. He'll just stop and pivot and turn and look at you, and it's really effective. And it's like this is probably how a zombie would act, like a semi more mobile zombie than the typical Hollywood fare. So that just works really well for it. And CJ just has like I said, a commanding presence about him. He's a big guy, and for a person who had zero acting experience and zero stuntman experience, which he did all of his own stunts basically in this movie too. He really did an amazing job, and I'm sure a lot of that's due to Tom's, great directing and all. But yeah, so it was interesting to see Jason in a new element. What do you do to this guy at this point? How do you hurt Jason or even slow him down?
Also, I think that he seems kind of slow in some of the other movies, but I don't know. Tell me if you agree. I feel like he kind of power walks in this movie. I don't know if it's the directing or what, but like he doesn't feel as slow to me as he does like in some of the later movies. We'll talk about teleporting Jason more when we get to part 8, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna rant on that when we get to part 8. But
Oh yeah, Russ. It was part 7 who had the girl with psychic powers, Tina. But
Tina, yep.
yeah, he does. He what we used to call in the military is called range walking, and he was an ex-military guy too. So I think that's what he did. He just freaking straight legged and he freaking moved from scene. So he wasn't running, but damn it, it was as close as you can get to running without actually running. So that made him a lot scarier because like after this, he moves so slow that it's like who couldn't get away from this guy? But at least this one, there's some believability into him catching up to people. So, all right. So we talked about the Jason, real good job, and we talked about some atmosphere. So let's talk about the cast. So, what was your take on the cast of this movie?
I really love having Tom Matthews in this movie because, like, one of my other favorite movies is Return of the Living Dead, and I love anything that Tom Matthews is in. I think he's just amazing. Like, he's my favorite Tommy Jarvis. I really like Corey Feldman in Four, but like Tom Matthews is just super entertaining, and I like that this movie probably has like one of my top like high end like in the franchise cast. Like nobody's gonna win an Oscar or anything, but they don't really have any annoying characters. Like a lot of them, like Seven has like Melissa, and then there's other movies that are like that too. The remake has like Trent. Like this movie doesn't really have like characters that are stereotypical. I hate it when they like just have stereotypical characters that don't feel like real people or whatever. I like Megan, I like Cord, I like pretty much everybody that you get in this movie.
Yeah, and they actually even add kids in there, but they don't add too much of them. Usually the scenes they're in are kind of funny, so they don't overdo it with that. So that was another first and only time you actually ever see kids at these camps. But yeah, I kind of dug the cast. They didn't have tons of time together as a group, but usually they were off in pairs. And when they're off in pairs, they seem to get along fine. They seem to have good rapport. Court was funny as hell. That little scene he does with the cairns, building the stone cairns with the kids. That's so hilarious. There's so many funny things in this movie. But he's like, okay, like here's how they like find their squaws and all that. He's so like Valley Girl himself. Just hilarious. And Tom's a pretty good Tommy. I uh, I actually liked John Shepard's Tommy a lot in the fifth. I thought he was kind of underutilized, unfortunately. But as far as a fully fleshed out Tommy, this is basically the best version of him. Um, just because you see all angles of him. You see the broken man at the beginning, and then the scared guy when he realizes he let the Kraken loose, and then basically the vengeful spirit at the end when he figures I got to fix what I started here. So yeah, it was really good acting. There was no real weak acting. There wasn't too many annoying side characters. Um, as far as Fridays goes, this is about as strong as cast as they can get. I mean, it's
Yep.
up there, I would say. I'll make it to a couple of
Oh,
these chats too. I'm sorry. Yeah, there's no real bad. I mean, there's not a movie in the series that I wouldn't watch. Just some are a lot less enjoyable than others. Sorry, Derek. I was gonna answer some people there,
no, you're good. You're good. I'm kind of looking at the chat some too.
but
But to make you laugh when the caretaker, one of my favorite scenes as far as the laughs is when the caretaker finishes alcohol and he's like, "You're gonna be the death of me," and then throws it over his shoulder. Jason catches it and then literally kills him with his alcohol bottle. That was like so ironic, and I just laughed so hard at it. You're gonna be the death of me.
it's like predestination right there. And it's like Jason just
That's
happened to be seeing it right
right.
there. It was great. There's so many cool little things like that in this movie, and like I said, it's almost self-referential humor again, and but it just works. It blends together so well in this movie. It's once again just to the strength of the director on this. Um, okay, so let's talk about the kills in this movie. You kind of alluded there were some pretty good ones in this. So what's your take on the kills in part six?
I think this movie's outstanding, especially like it's the MPAA era where the MPAA won't let them put in a lot of gore. This movie found a way to like have really good kills, like without having the gore. Like where there's some that are there's like several like top 10 potential kills, like top 10 in the franchise for me in this movie. You got like the kill where he punches through Tommy's friend and grabs his heart. That one's really good. Then you got the RV one that I mentioned earlier, where he shoves the girl's head through the RV. And I love when he kills Court too, because he has that awesome Teenage Frankenstein song by Alice Cooper, and he's walking up behind him, and you see him in the rearview mirror. That's such an awesome scene. And you got the one where he breaks the sheriff's back in half, and you got a couple other good ones. Like it's not gory, but the kills are still really satisfying in this one. What do you think?
Oh, totally agree. This interesting. Sorry, I'm getting feedback there. The really interesting thing to me on these kills is almost everyone has a little bit of setup to it, which is kind of nice. There's very few of someone walks around the corner, Jason sticks him in the face, and then it cuts away to something else. And this one is like when he takes Darcy, whatever her name is, he pulls her into the bathroom. They're struggling for like 20 seconds, and then he kills her, which was my favorite kill in the entire series, by the way. I did a video on that. But Court, he's sneaking up on Court slowly, and you see him in frame a lot. That lasts like 10 seconds before he even gets to Court, and then Court's up there jamming. Sheriff Garris. They sitting there fighting. He grabs him and starts bending him backwards, and before he breaks in half, he doesn't just bend him and break him like right away. It takes a few seconds. So there's kind of a ruthless inevitability about Jason in this, and since he's not moving as fast as he used to, he's got to make up for it in sheer brutality, it appears. But I just like it. Every kill had a setup, and there was a lot of really good ones in this one. And like I said, not a lot of gore, but I don't care about that. I don't think it takes gore to make a good kill. You know what I mean?
Not always.
I mean, Psycho's how famous for just one kill, basically, and I mean, there wasn't really any gore to be seen there. Let's see.
Nothing. You mentioned Psycho. I forget you're not in on our inside joke about the Arbogast kill. I
No,
always really rant about the Arbogast kill in Psycho. That I love the shower kill, but I absolutely hate the Arbogast kill in Psycho. I think it looks horrendous, and it literally makes me laugh when I watch it.
you should never do that.
I can't do it.
It's hard. It's like you need a steady cam in the front that's on a pivot, you know. The Hey John, it's Comments with Kids. What's going on? Good to see you. Good to see you. So yeah, I think the kills in this were pretty good too. So let's talk about the final act. What did you think about the final act in Jason Lives? I mean, did it live up to the great opening act?
Before I forget, because we didn't really talk about the open too much specifically, I think this movie has probably the best open in the series when Tommy resurrects Jason. Like the scene's just so well done. But maybe it's just me, but I feel like the ending is a little bit of a letdown, kind of in a way, because you feel like, what's his master plan? Oh, I'm gonna get Jason to follow me out in the lake, and I'm gonna chain him up, and I don't know. It's just like something about the ending. It's hard to put my finger on it. Maybe in the comment section, you can tell us what you think. But the ending just feels like anticlimactic to me. Like I feel like the ending doesn't live up to the rest of the movie. I'm not saying it's bad. I just feel like the rest of the whole movie, you're on like this incredible high. Like the whole movie's like an A plus, and you get to the end, and it's like an A minus or B plus. It's kind of how I feel about the ending. What do you think?
It was a little contrived. I it's like it's a really specific plan for killing him. I mean, other than okay, I can understand taking his head off or burning him or whatever it is you got to do to kill him, but I have to chain him to the bottom of Crystal Lake. You know, that takes a real specific set of events to get going. So it was interesting. I love the imagery of him hanging down there on that rock, though. That is great.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that is so cool. But yeah, I could. That was just a little bit strange. Um, like part four, he took care of Jason. There was no question he was a goner, you know, after what he did to him. I guess in this one it's a little bit different, but I'm sure if he took the head off of zombie Jason, I'm sure he'd be dead, you know, or at least as far as the movie goes. So it just seemed a little odd and a little bit complicated to set up. And the fact that Jason walked right into it was also a little bit contrived, but you know, it's a horror movie. You gotta you gotta get him down at the bottom of the lake somehow, right?
And also, if you think about it, like if he's in the middle of the lake, it's one thing, but like I'm gonna put Jason 10 feet out in the lake, like nothing's ever gonna happen. Like he's just gonna be fine there. What it didn't feel like he was more than like 10 or 20 feet out. Like
No. I mean,
unless I'm misremembering the movie.
no, he grabbed up from when he was already down there. He grabbed her ankle from there and pulled her down, or pulled him down. Excuse me. So he's gonna be snapping kids left and right if no one gets him out of there.
That's right. I always think that every time I watch this one.
I wrote some fan fiction like that, but yeah, he should have made it definitely a shorter chain, I think, or something. But it was interesting. Yeah, the final act, and there wasn't really much of a cat and mouse game in the end either, other than Jason ping ponging back between victims. But there really wasn't a final girl in this movie or anything like that, like as opposed to every other one. So that's a little bit of a departure from the formula. Not necessarily a bad thing, but you like to see Jason take punishment at the end and keep trucking to try to finish the job. Hey, Bake, what's going on? Good to see you, my friend. Good to see you. Sorry if I missed anyone in the chat. I'm sitting here just rambling around. Let's see. I'm going to try to put some more of the better comments up there. So let's go ahead and talk about the overall. So, what is your take on the overall? What kind of score would you assign this, or where would you put it in the pantheon of the movies?
When I did like my Sinister Six reviews and I ranked like all the movies in the major horror franchises, this one was like my number two after Friday the 13th Part 4. So I think with Friday being my favorite franchise, I think this might be my second favorite horror movie of all time after Part Four. The main reason I give Part Four the nod is kind of what we just talked about. I think Part Four has like that perfect ending, and six kind of leaves a little bit to be desired for me with the ending. Not to say it's bad, but it just doesn't meet that sheer perfection of when Jason slides down the machete and Tommy double taps him like 20 times at the end of four.
Yeah, there's a lot of overkill there. I rate this one real high as well. I gave it like a 4 or 4.5 out of 5 on my metric, and definitely in the upper top three for sure, and really top two for me as far as Fridays go. When I was younger, I didn't like it as much because I thought it was a little bit sillier, and I didn't really understand the humor too much. I didn't know what meta was really, and I just wanted to see body counts and scantily clad women. There's a lot less of that in this movie than there is, in the other ones in the series. So I think I was a little too hard on it when I was younger, but adult Dave can definitely appreciate the movie much more. And if I was to show people, if I took somebody who had never seen the series before, which I actually did, I would show them this movie first. It's like, hey,
Me
let's
too. I
let's
agree.
let's easy into it. I can catch you up on the lore in 10 seconds and tell you what's going on, and I think you'll enjoy this. My folks and my little brother and my little sister were here like 6 months ago, and we all went down to the movie room, and I put this one on. He says, "Look, I'm reviewing the series at the time. You want to watch it with me?" And they all enjoyed it. They were like, "I thought this was going to be bad because none of them really seen the series before." It's like, no, this is a good movie, man. Everything about it. There's even a car chase, for goodness sake. It's got everything. But so very, very, very high on the list, and just a good quality movie. So if any of you out there in the chat have never seen it and want to ease into the Friday 13th experience, I think you'd enjoy this one much more than say like the very first one. It's already rebooting the series somewhat anyway, so if you're gonna start somewhere and want to start off easy, I'd suggest probably this one. So yeah, rankings are fun to do, aren't they? Let's see. Bake, yeah, you should rank them, man. People like to watch anything. I took 4 hours of video today of me putting headlights on my motorcycle, so we'll we'll see what people actually want to watch. But okay, so on a high note, we're getting through part 6, so let's move on to part 7. And a lot of people think this is where the series really started to jump the shark. I don't know if I would go that much to it, but there was definitely some new stuff going on here. So initial takes of part 7. What's your thoughts?
But man, this one, the best way to sum up this one is it's such a mixed bag because this movie does some stuff really well, but it does some stuff really terribly too. Like there's like not hardly much in between for me. Like part seven, either in some aspects is really good, like the fight between Tina and Jason, and the look of Jason, or really terrible, like the muddy dad ending, or like the characters. Like it's such a mixed bag in this movie.
Yeah, it's a little bit all over the place. And when I was younger, this was my favorite, easily my favorite when I was younger. Um, and I think mostly just because of the look of Jason, and of course the final act, which is basically balls to the wall. Uh, Other than part 3, you don't see Jason get beat up nearly as much as this normally. He takes a look and keeps on ticking. But so yeah, it used to be my favorite, not my favorite anymore. And I will say there's a couple things going against this movie that is not the movie's fault. For one thing, the MPA had a hard on for this movie. I don't know what their deal was, but they completely eviscerated this movie. They went back to the cutting room floor like 7, 8 times, I think it said, before they wouldn't put an X rating on it. They cut every bit of gore out of this movie to get it through, and most of the nudity too. It's just I don't understand why the MPA was so bad against this series. I mean, people are going to a horror movie, they expect to see horrible things, right? It wasn't torture porn or anything, it was just kills, and it's like nothing we haven't seen before. But this is stuff like you could show it in the daytime TV. You could show this on regular cable, and all you have to cut out was the swear words and a little bit of nudity, and you really wouldn't. There's nothing to edit. So that's not the movie's fault. And the ending, John Carl Buechler did not want to shoot it the way it was, but I guess he had some production interference, is what the legend goes. And they said we can't put makeup on the dad. We have to make him look normal, and he thought that looked really stupid. But he just had to go with what the money people said eventually. So Yeah, he was never a little satisfied that, but I think the movie ending would have been the same, just would have been with a rotted, decomposed father, which would have made more sense, I guess. But none of it makes sense. Him being still down there underneath the dock doesn't make a lick of sense and all that. But whatever.
Because you got to look at it this way, it's one of two explanations. Either he's supernatural, and I don't want that in a Friday movie anyway, or they never recovered his body, which makes absolutely no sense because he died like it's a lake. It's not like they got strong currents or anything, and he died like only a few feet out, right by the end of the dock. So like, just it does not matter how you explain, like whatever explanation, it doesn't work. Like they shouldn't have had her dad come back at all. Like I think what would have been a serviceable ending, and you still could have had the same effect, is maybe have like Tina use her telekinesis to like chain him back or like bury him at the bottom of the lake like herself, and you still could have got the same effect of it.
Yeah, like I said, it just there was a lot to like about this, and it was supposed to be a Freddy vs. Jason movie. This is what this movie was supposed to be, and they couldn't secure the rights. There was no new line buyout yet or nothing like that, so they had to figure something out. And the suits figured like, well, we can't get Freddy. Let's throw Carrie in there. So they had to make a non-Carrie be the antagonist. But I thought it was cool. I mean. It added some fireworks, and it made for an interesting character development. I would like to interview Lar one day, but we'll go ahead and get into the nuts and bolts of the movie. So let's talk about kind of the introduction, and then we'll kind of work our way out slowly. Someone just pinging me here. I would say the introduction for this one was cool. It wasn't nearly as good as part 6, but oh, sorry, I got a message over here. Okay, he's sick, but it worked okay. It was basically little girl reses Jason by accident. He's still at the bottom of the lake from part 6 for undisclosed amount of years, probably about 15 to 20 years, somewhere around there. And she gets emotional. She's a real emotional person. She's had a weird, rough upbringing. She killed her own father on accident because of her telekinetic powers, and she reses Jason on accident. So here we go again. So Jason's alive. For some reason, he doesn't kill her, even though she's passed out on the dock and he sees her. But okay, so we got Jason res. So what was your take on the introduction to this movie?
I thought it was good. I thought it made sense for her to bring him back that way, and it didn't really bother me. So I thought the intro was pretty good, and then when he goes and kills Nick's cousin or whatever and his girlfriend out in the woods, like this movie has a solid open to it.
I kind of like the idea of him being just kind of comatose down there, but still somewhat conscious, because like that's what she hones in on. He's completely inert down there, but she senses something down there. So I like the idea of just some little part of his mind is still awake down there, and he's just basically in sleep mode right now. But I thought that was kind of cool. But not a bad opening. It did bring back something we hadn't seen for a while, and that is the opening montage of earlier movies. But this one I think did a good job with it because it made it like a story instead of just a clip show. You know, it got the narrator going on a little bit, and it picked out some of the better kills of the series up till then. So that part was kind of cool.
Hey Corey, what's up?
Oh, hey, CDR, what's going on, my friend? We did the stream with him last week, and he's got the little Ethel icon down there for you big dildos out there. So had a pretty solid opening, but a little bit nondescript, but not too bad. At least it made sense in the grand scheme of how he was released and reawakened. So I guess since we're starting with the beginning, we can get into probably the best part of this movie, and that's the first look you have at Jason. So let's talk about the look of Jason in this movie, which is, I think, incredible. What's your take on that?
Yeah, like I love how like you could like see his spine and like he's all decayed on his body. Like this is probably my favorite look of Jason in the whole franchise with the decayed body, and then when his mask comes off, his creepy looking face. It's really good. Like I really enjoy how Jason looks. Like that's one of my big positives of this movie is the look of Jason in part 7 is just outstanding. Like they nailed that. And I thought Kane's portrayal in 7 was really good. Like my favorite Kane portrayal is definitely part 7 for sure.
Agreed. He definitely seems to have lost a step. I mean, which makes sense. He's been dead for so long again, and then waterlogged too. But the makeup, it's a full bodysuit. It's not just the face makeup that's going on this time. He's got a lot of stuff going on. You can see his rib cage, you can see his spine, you can see his kneecaps. Um, it doesn't make a lot of sense from a physics standpoint. It's like he would look all hollowed out because all his flesh would be mostly gone, and he's enormous in this movie. But I mean, other than that little nitpick, his makeup work is just incredible, and none of the other have even come close to this in the series. And it's really a shame because they did it on a lower budget too. So I think it's
Yeah,
just sheer laziness on the part of some of the other directors to not make it look better.
definitely.
Because this one just looks amazing, and there's a little bit of a menace to Kane in this one. He has a few scenes where he makes some quicker motions. It looks nice and aggressive, and I don't know. It just kind of works. It's definitely the best one with him in it because all the ones that followed that, he did not capture it. And I don't think it's totally his fault, but this is the only
It's
one.
more a
Yeah,
directing thing, I think.
yeah. So we've established that Jason looks pretty good. Let's talk about the cast. Let's see how they look. Well, they have some decent looking ones, I guess, but let's talk about their actual acting chops and their chemistry together on set. So he's already over there shaking his head. He can't wait to get in there. So, sir, without further ado, let us have it.
I think the characters are horrendous in this movie. Like it's close for like part 8 with the worst because you got the stereotypical nerdy guy, and then you got Melissa, the stereotypical bitch, and then you got the racial couple to have the racial couple. You got the ugly girl. You got the stoner guy. But they just have like everybody's just so boring. All the characters are boring, and then like I don't buy Tina and Nick's romance as well. There's this one. I don't know if you remember this. This is one of the most cringeworthy dialogue lines in the whole franchise. Before they kiss the first time, she's like, "With my luck, you'll turn out to be just another delusion." Like, who says that? Like before they like make their move on somebody. If a girl said that to me or something, I'm gone. I'm taking off. I'm out of there.
At least she gets the crazy out there in the open ahead of time, so you can't blame anyone but
Yeah,
yourself.
hey, at least she's open and honest, right?
Yeah, I mean, apparently there wasn't any chemistry between them. Apparently, they did not like each other on set whatsoever. But
He was gay in real life too.
yep. But I guess they made up later on in life. But yeah, the rest of the cast is so nondescript, and it's a shame because it could have been good because you got a ton of kids in the party house. It's like part 4. Okay, perfect. We have a great time to put character interactions together and show some at least some bonding. These are all supposed to be friends, right? These people seem like they hate each other. All they do is snipe each other
Yeah,
constantly. Uh, it's awful, and they're so over the top mean to Tina and all that too. I mean, that was mostly the Melissa character. Even though I think she played the part well, but it's hard to make someone hate you, and she's very hate worthy in this movie. And you can't wait for Jason to get her. But yeah, they don't seem like they're friends. Even the close ones, they're paired up like Maddie and whatever her name was. Uh, Even they snipe each other. It's like this is getting pretty ridiculous. So it's like, yeah, these just you're begging for Jason to come in and to rampage those kids down, and of course he does. But yeah, weak cast. Laura Park Lincoln did a decent job, I think, on her character because she had to be real weepy and kind of on the brink of breakdown at any given time. So it's hard to play that off for an entire movie. I think she did a pretty decent
yeah.
job with that. And the best part is, I loved her portrayal on the final act because here she has all this power and she's throwing Jason around and really wrecking his day, but she's still afraid and she's not real sure of herself and she's not gung ho about it. She's just scared to death, and that's what's causing all this stuff to attack him. So I kind of dig that. I kind of dig her vulnerability, even though she had that immense power too. Oh yeah, no, that was a good old part 4. Good old Teddy. His computer never lies. But so characters are established as bad. Let's talk about atmosphere a little bit. What did you think about the set design and the set pieces in this movie?
I thought it was really bad and it had kind of a Hollywood feel, but tell me if this has annoyed you. Like, I know I don't remember the exact timeline, but I don't buy because, like, think about the open, like where Jason's at. So you're telling me, like, they tore down the camp and all those cabins and everything? Because that's where Jason's at the beginning of the movie, where her house is at. It just doesn't makes sense. Like that's like that. It bothers me every time because like Jason's in the lake right by her house, but that's where the cabins and all that was in part 6. Like that's really poor attention to continuity. Now I'm nitpicking this, but like when you're talking about my favorite franchise and separating the good ones from the great ones, I have to nitpick stuff. But that's something that always bothers me with like the setting. Like where Jason's at makes no sense.
Yeah, it's very true, and they can't not get continuity right with the size of the lake. In this one, the lake looks like a pond. In like part
Yeah,
four, it looks kind of small, but there's a huge lake as well. And part two looks like there's a huge lake. And part one, it looks like a big lake. That one makes sense, but it's
yeah.
so weird with the continuity in this movie. But as far as the sets, it's pretty bland. Oh wow, where's the focus? Um, it just I don't know. It goes in and
Yeah,
out
that happened earlier.
on quality, and the house is kind of boring. It's too well lit. It looks much better when he pulls the power. At least the main house, and then just I don't know. The woods are too well lit. He's out in the middle of the woods, and it looks like there's a full moon and spotlights everywhere, and so it doesn't really lend itself to too much suspense and a fearful environment. So yeah, I think most of the set pieces they do look very manufactured and not too good. The only one that's even decent, I think, is the tool shed area. That one's as weird as it is. At least that one looks a little bit creepy. But yeah, that one's kind of a letdown. I think the atmosphere in this movie. So yeah, so we're going on a Debbie Downer note, and we've had two bad things in a row. So let's talk about the kills. Are we gonna make this three bad things in a row, or what's your opinion on
Yeah.
the kills? I think we all know how this is gonna go, but let's go ahead and just get into it just a little bit.
Because if you watch my YouTube channel, you know I'm a gore hound, and like gore and pacing are like the two most important things to me when I watch a movie. And I don't blame the movie for that. Like I know like about the MPAA and I know why the movie is the way it is, but you've still got to judge it. Like there's no gore there. And I've heard they've destroyed like all the original
Hmm.
footage, so all they have is really hazy stuff, which makes me really sad because just think if they gave this movie like I don't know, I'm assuming you've seen these like My Bloody Valentine and Silent Night
Hmm.
and Deadly Night, where they did a re-release Blu-ray with the cut footage added in. Could you imagine how awesome this movie would be with like the cut footage added? Did you see the cut footage where like Jason crushes that guy's face into like a
Yep.
pine cone, but it looks like garbage in the actual movie?
Yeah, I don't know why would any film studio destroy footage? It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, it doesn't take up that much room, but whatever. I mean, it is what it is. They just want to make their few million off these movies and move on to the next one. But yeah, the kills are just weak. There was a lot of cool setups to some of the kills. I mean, there's a couple good ideas. My favorite one's probably the party horn in the eye. It's so funny because it makes that little
Yeah,
noise
that
when it
was a
goes in
cool
there.
idea.
I mean, and then the weed eater thingy. I don't know what the hell that thing is. The circular slaw slash weed eater. I've never seen one like that before, and I used to have a lawn care business, but whatever. Um, that was interesting. Dr. Cruz. That was supposed to be like a complete disemboweling and cutting him in half and all that. And of course, you didn't see anything but him crossing his eyes. So it's rough. They did another homage of like part 6 when he shoves his hand into the guy's back and breaks his spine, then breaks his neck. That one's kind of a good one. Not gory at all, but there's no gory kills in this movie whatsoever. So it's all real basic. It's all run the mill cut out paste. So it's just bad. This is one of the worst ones for kills in the entire series. Whether it's completely the fault of MPA or some it's because the choice of the director. That's it's kind of unknown. But I mean, yeah, just the worst kills in the series. It's got to be up there.
You do get the sleeping bag kill, but hopefully I won't make anybody mad. I think the sleeping bag kill is kind of overrated because like all he does is he takes her and he hits her against the tree once, and then she pops out of the bag and she's a little bit bloody. Like everybody all falls in love with the sleeping bag kill, but I think it's good, but I don't think it's like top 10 in the franchise or
No,
anything
I
for
I never
me.
I never got what everyone worships that one for some reason. Like just the kill against Melissa was better when he freaking axes her in the face and flings her across the room.
Yeah, oh, I forgot about that one. That's a good one.
I mean, it's mostly a cutaway, and good job on the stunt woman, by the way, because she had to go over with no arms on purpose. But yeah, so yeah, I don't get the love in the sleeping bag one either. I don't know, maybe because Kane says he likes it, everyone wants to jump on the fanboy bandwagon or something. I'm not sure, but Yeah, they re-homage that one too in part 10, which we'll get to. But okay, so kills are pretty weak. Only thing's good so far really is somewhat of the opener and Jason so far. Let's talk about maybe the final act of this movie, and I think this is where this movie's going to help redeem itself somewhat. So what's your take on the final act of this movie?
It's honestly, until taking out the very end, which we already talked about, like when Tina battles Jason, it's arguably like my favorite final act in the series because it's like she matches Jason's power level and she's not really running away. Like in the other one, the girls are always trying to run away or get away. Like she just like beats the crap out of him, like electrocutes him, sets him on fire, drops like part of a house on him, blows the house up. Like she just, oh my god, Tina is awesome. And who doesn't want to see? It's supposed to be like Carrie versus Jason, but it's basically a Carrie ripoff. Who doesn't want to see telekinesis versus Jason? If you say you don't like that, I don't know what's wrong with you.
I mean, it's the perfect weapon against Jason. You don't want to be in melee range. You want to be a caster, right? You want to be a ranged character. So it's a perfect weapon against him. It works so well. If she was a little more cognizant, she really could have wiped the floor even worse with him. But she was so terrified and still unsure of herself that she never really could finish him off. But yeah, she throws the kitchen sink at him and then some. He takes either the biggest beating in this movie or the second biggest, if you're including part three. It's tough to say because he was human back then, so maybe it was a little more applicable. But yeah, great final act here. It's I'm sure limited. I'm sure they wanted to do some more stuff with her telekinesis, but you only do so much with the budget they had. It was only like $2 million or something. But yeah, she runs him through the meat grinder, and he keeps on coming back for more, which is it's his mo. I kind of dig it. This one's also a little less tense because she has her boyfriend basically with her the whole time too, which is kind of odd. Usually it's just done in one final girl and that's it. So there's a little bit of a departure from norm there, but just a great ending. Lots of fireworks, lots of action. It just doesn't stop moving, and you even see a house blow up. An amazing explosion scene. Kane set on
It's
fire.
a really good one.
Yeah, he's just flailing around on fire and stuff, and he's like I said, she just hits him. If you haven't seen it, just go watch it just for the ending, and you probably won't be disappointed. It does not look cheesy and hokey, other than maybe when she throws the sofa at him. That one looks kind of bad, but everything else looks good, and yeah, no arguments to the final act at all, and I think it came over good. But that's not the end of the movie. Let's talk about the finale. Okay, here's where we're gonna be in some trouble because we have to figure out she's not figured out how to take care of Jason, and he is still gonna kill her after all she's done to him. She's basically on her last leg, pun intended, because of her knee. But what did you think about the Due Machina here on how Jason was taken care of?
You already know because I said earlier it's terrible. Muddy Dad makes no. It doesn't matter if he's muddy or if he's zombie. I don't buy that they wouldn't have found his body if that was actually him, and I don't want supernatural garbage in my Friday movie. Like the ending, it just makes me cringe. Like I feel like the downfall of the Friday the 13th franchise was kind of the ending of this movie. Some people say it's the whole movie, but I think this movie is actually really good and a really good watch. But the ending just kind of really loses a lot of momentum for me.
Yeah, it was so contrived. And I don't want to ruin it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but let's just say that
Just ruin it. If they have low
yeah.
expectations going in, they'll like it more.
Basically, she cast the red spell on Daddy, and he is still down there, like he said, 10 feet below the water, and they never dredged him out of there. He comes up with a little bit of Spam Jello on his face and a little bit of dirt on him, and he takes care of Jason somehow. I guess drowning Jason works again some reason. He's been down at the bottom of the lake for 30 plus years or 20 years, whatever the hell long he's been down there. And then everything's fine. You do not see an ending here suggesting Jason's coming back, so it looks like he's gone for good, right? Weak, terrible ending. Gosh, it was bad. There's so much more. She could have just broke his neck or something, when she saw him, or Jason to get ready to kill her boyfriend or whatever, okay, just rips his head off or something with her telekinesis. That's when she goes completely ham, but nope, they just did something so stupid like this. And he jumps out of the water and he's like, and then he chains him and brings him down. Yeah, awful ending. and you don't really see like what happens to her. Like in part 3, after such a traumatic episode, uh, I can't remember her name now. Not Trish.
Chris.
Chris, yeah. No.
Chris. If you're talking
She's
about Chris.
obviously mentally freaking damaged goods now after having to deal with this and watching all her friends get butchered. Now, Tina didn't really have friends here, but her mother just got killed, and she just watched everyone else get basically hacked to pieces, and she seems fine. Like, okay, I'm gonna hug my boyfriend. We're gonna walk away, basically into the sunset, and that's that. Did the cops ever find out and ask where Jason was? He's still right down there. He's right there. He's not even in the middle of the lake anymore. So just awful ending. It's a shame since the last act was so good that we were stuck with that. But it is what it is. So where would you rate this in the overall scheme of things in the Friday 13th series?
For this one, it's bottom five, but like top of the bottom five. Like, I don't think it's as good as the first six or the remake, but I think it might be like the best one after that.
Yeah, I mean, for all the bad things we said about it, it does a lot right as far as a Friday film goes. And I think
Yeah.
if it wasn't butchered so bad by the editors or the MPA, it would have been a lot better. And if they would have hired some better actors or at least directed them better, it could have been something special because we've never seen a protagonist like this in a Friday 13th before or since. Someone who could basically stand toe to toe with Jason. And I think it was a wasted opportunity, unfortunately. But it was just a really good thing. And most everything else, it was just kind of dull, until you get to the final act. All right. So I think I made this one like a 3 or 3.5 is what I rated it. And most of that's nostalgia because I liked it so much when I was younger. But just for mostly the makeup effects and the final act is basically what the saving grace
Yeah.
of this movie is. So unfortunately, it's going to get a little rough for a while because we're going to get into probably the next, what most would agree are the worst movies in the series. At this point, even the studio didn't care about these movies anymore because it really wasn't making that much money. It was making like $2 or $3 million for them, maybe 10 million, and that was it. So they were like, just make it. I don't care how much your budget is. Here's $1.5 million. Just make it happen. I don't care anything about the acting. I don't care anything about continuity. Just make me a few million and I'll be happy. Whatever. So we're gonna move on to the biggest gimmick ever in Friday 13th, and that was maybe not the biggest. It was close to the biggest, and that's part 8. Jason Takes Manhattan. For those of you who've seen this movie, I'm sure you'll be able to chime in here at some points, but this is where the series not only jumped the shark, but it brought the shark onto the fucking boat and gutted it. Um, let's talk about the opener of this movie. So, what was your take on how Jason was both brought back and how the movie was set up from there?
I was fine with it because like electrocution brought him back basically in six. So I was fine with that again, and at least they halfway kept the continuity because he was put at the bottom of the lake in seven. So at least like they followed through with that. So I thought the open was really solid. Um, I hate how the girl dies. The girl is like such an idiot at the beginning. Like, why would you not dive overboard and try to swim for it? Like in that scenario, like that's what I would do. Like if I'm gonna die, he's gonna have to come and get me. I'm not gonna cram myself into this little hole where I have like absolutely no chance to get out. Like he's not gonna look there. But hey, horror movie logic.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, now in her defense in this movie, no one had a chance because the way he can move around, but we'll talk about that later. And then she just lays there too and lets him stick her with a looks like a frog gig is what it looks like. Doesn't look like a spear gun spear, but whatever. That was kind of funny too. I will say that the opening where you think he's going to shoot the spear gun at the dude and he just shoves it into the guy instead. It's like homage to like what was it, Curse of Michael Myers when he shoves the shotgun through the guy instead of shooting him with it. But
Part four,
yeah,
Halloween four.
that was. But the intro is interesting. He's still laying. He's laying. He's even less conspicuous than the dad was who dragged him down there because he's just still under the broken down dock and you can see his legs sticking out and all that. And apparently there's a huge power line running underneath the the lake there. Apparently Crystal Lake needs that much amperage, right? And that's what reses him, which is cool. Like I said, there's some history behind that. At least that's something we've seen before. And then we are introduced to Crystal Lake, the fjord. Basically, Crystal Lake is now somehow connected either via river system or direct connection to the ocean. Uh, you have to really suspend some disbelief here. But anyway, that's how it is. And basically, it goes from the initial parts of Crystal Lake to Jason takes a cruise, all the way to get to New York. That's the byline of this movie. Is Jason takes Manhattan. So people on the lead up to this movie expected to see Jason rampaging through Times Square. That's kind of what everyone envisioned. And we were to find out that's not to be, really. So getting to the next phase of the movie is where I think it's a little bit stronger. The cruise ship itself, kind of liked they took him out of the woods and did something different with it. And I don't know, cruise ship is kind of claustrophobic. You're kind of trapped out there in the middle of the ocean with this psychopathic, unstoppable killer on board. I think that kind of sets up an interesting premise. What do you think about that?
Yeah, like I think I'll have some negatives with this movie, but I don't buy into a lot of the negatives that other people have, like it not being a lake connecting to an ocean. Like they have canals and stuff, like the Great Lakes connect to the Atlantic Ocean, like the Erie Canal and all that. Like that's plausible. And then I also think that the boat is an underrated setting because they take him out of the camp, and what's scarier, kind of like in the end of the original Jaws, when you're trapped on a boat and you can't go anywhere and somebody's trying to kill you, and then later the boat's sinking. Like I actually really dug the ship atmosphere. Would I've loved more the movie to be in Manhattan? But yeah, but like I don't buy into like people like it's Jason takes a boat and then that's why the movie's bad. Like I don't buy that. Like I have other negatives with the movie, but like I like the boat setting and it doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of good to say about this movie, but I don't think the boat itself was bad. And people complain, I think, a little too much about the time spent in the boat. Because, I mean, get down to it. He's got to kill people. So, I mean, why not put him in an enclosed space? It's easier to shoot rather than have some huge set pieces out there in the city. I don't know. I kind of dig it. It lends itself to more of the stalk and kill thing that he's known for. So, that part I thought was decent. But let's get a little beyond that. Actually, since we did this before, what did you think about the look of Jason in this movie? At least in the first half, I thought it was pretty awful. But
Um, I'm kind of mixed. Like I don't think it's pretty bad, but I don't think it's terrible. It kind of makes me laugh, like how slimy he is all the time. It's kind of funny when he's unmasked. It's awful later in the movie, but like when he's got his mask on, the look of the mask is decent, and then the look of Jason is not as good as Seven, but it's decent. Other than like the fact he's ridiculously slimy, which doesn't really make sense because once he's out of the water for a while, would he not like be like more normal, you know?
Gray, I just want to answer that one for you real fast. There was a little bit shot in Manhattan, very little, just a few little scenes. Most of it shot in Vancouver, I think it was, or Toronto, one of those two. I can't remember which it was. So most of that was actually shot in Canada, all the cityscape stuff. So just so you know.
I can tell honestly, like you could definitely tell which scenes were the Vancouver scenes. Like it's blatantly obvious to me.
All those ridiculous alleyways and all that. But um, so yeah, I did not like the look of him in this. I didn't understand why he suddenly got more clothes. He has more flesh. He doesn't look as big. He no longer has his rib cage showing. No longer. There's a lot going on. He's got gloves on again. I don't know. It was weird that they went that direction with him. Why was he always covered? I felt bad for Kane in this because he had to be cold. I mean, he was always drenched, like soaking wet, and then, like I said, had that slime coat all over him. And from there, I guess we'll go into the psychic connection between Rennie and Jason. What the hell was that?
To me, this is like one of my biggest problems with this movie, and I hate it with a passion because the whole thing, like, I feel like I challenge anybody in the comments to have a decent defense of this because it's hard. Because if you actually match the timeline up, it makes no sense that she would even be potentially drowned by zombie Jason because she's like 17 or 18 because it's like a high school thing, and Jason's drowned in like 58 or whatever it was. So like the timeline doesn't match up at all. And the visions are so unnecessary. They don't really add anything to the story. And the thing that's really annoying is Jason looks different like every time. Like in the visions, he doesn't consistently look the same. And he looks like Asian Jason or something, like once or twice. Like the director, I don't know what the director was thinking, because like you literally take those scenes out of the movie, you lose nothing, and it makes the movie way better. Well, not way better, but it eliminates like one of the bigger flaws.
The only reason I can think of him having him in there was maybe to see why Jason was so single-minded and going after her even in the city. But he does that every time. He doesn't like any
Yeah.
survivors, so it wasn't necessary. I don't get it. Every time they did it, too, it was like a strobe effect going on. It looked like a damn dance review because you got smoke rolling around. They got bright, different color lights flashing around. What was the point of this? I mean, did he try to drown her, or did she just make it up because she almost drowned herself? I don't understand it. I don't get it, and I don't like it. So, I mean, it wasn't even artistic in a way. It was just, I think, just done for cheap effect. I guess I can't see another reason for it. Um,
He clearly didn't. The director clearly didn't understand the franchise, because, like, he didn't even have the timeline right. There's no way Jason could have, like, kid Jason could have, like, he
yeah,
clearly didn't have any understanding of the franchise.
I in some defense too, they have a lot of trouble with consistency with continuity in these movies. But still, this one was just real. The kid Jason does not need to be in this movie at all. Like you said, just edit it out and you won't be missing anything other than some cheap effects. So speaking of cheap effects, let's talk about some of the kills in this movie. What do you think about the body count and how they were got that way?
To me, all the kills in this movie suck except for one. Like this movie, they have some really bad. Like I think this one has even worse kills than what Part Seven does. You have some more MPA action, but I feel like they don't even really have any kind of creative ideas. Like they have some really bad looking effects. Like, do you remember the one on the ship when he like slow motion cuts that guy's throat or something, and it looks terrible? And there's some other ones that are just really bad looking too. But I mean, everybody in the comment knows we got to talk about the Julius kill, which is just it's like one of my favorite kills in the franchise. It's like definitely top 10, maybe top 5. That like Jason, he's on the roof with Jason, and then he's just punching him because they make him out to be like this badass boxer like the whole movie, and he's just like punching Jason for like a minute straight, and Jason's just taking it. And I love that he has the line. The line he says makes it perfect. He's like, "Take your best shot, motherfucker," and Jason hits him once, knocks his head off, and it falls into the garbage. Oh my god, I love it. It is hilarious.
It most of the kills were so bad in this movie. That one was funny just because you kind of saw it coming, but it was just it was just so over the top ridiculous. And then they put the freaking Steadicam on top of the head and rolled it down the freaking wall or the wall, so you get to see the first person view of his head like rolling down. But actually, one of the kills in this movie did make my top 10 list though, and it was the one where he kills the Asian girl in the discotheque. That one was really good. I thought that was just showed his brutality. Because he actually looks angry in that kill. He's like shaking with rage. Not only is he choking her, he lifts her up, puts her against the freaking ceiling, and chokes the life out of her. Then he flings her down like a sack of potatoes at the end. It was a good kill.
The comment section. Oh my god, the comment
Oh yeah,
section's getting hilarious.
I know. I got to start putting more of
Whatever
these up
he
there.
hits, he destroys, just like Drago in Rocky Four.
If he dies, he dies. But oh
Jason
yeah,
was getting a massage from Julius.
he was gently tapping him. That was for especially the body shots, and it sounds all wet when he's hitting him. But yeah, most of the kills are just awful, awful, awful in this movie. And I don't think it was just because of the budget or MPA. I think a lot of them were just poorly executed and poorly planned. I mean, the hot rock could have been cool, but it looked so terrible and cheesy. The guy getting knocked off onto the freaking weather vane or whatever just was a complete cutaway. There wasn't, other than the one or two kills in this, it was just completely ridiculous. Um, so let's go ahead and get on a little past the kills and talk about the cast. So did we actually care if these cast members died, or were you kind of rooting for Jason in this one?
I literally don't care about anybody in this whole movie. Like, I know the answer, but I challenge people without looking it up. Tell me the name of the final girl in this movie. Go on in the comment section. Tell me the name of the final girl. You're not allowed to look it up. You probably won't be
Hmm.
able to. She's super forgettable and
I
she's
mentioned it
super
earlier
terrible.
too, so so if you weren't paying
Oh well,
attention
maybe.
earlier,
Well, they probably. Oh well, that's okay. They probably still forgot. That's how
see,
forgettable her
every,
performance is.
yeah, oh man, I was rooting for Jason the whole time. This is without a doubt the blandest, worst acted cast in the entire series. None of them, other than Julius, is given one single character trait at all, and most of them aren't given more than like 10 seconds of screen time. And this is the main characters. I mean, other than Rennie and her boyfriend, I mean, whatever his name was, the son. You don't see anyone for any amount of time. Oh, then and the doctor. I forget about him, but it was. Oh man,
Obviously, we forget about everybody in this movie. And I'm not hard on my cast because I'm a Friday 13th fan. It's my favorite franchise, and acting isn't. I'm not one of those people that like, oh, I got to have Oscar acting in all my horror movies. I'm telling you, this might be top 10 worst cast that I've ever seen in any horror movie. Like, it's bad
zero
in this
chemistry,
one.
zero chemistry. And the only one who made any sense in the movie was the freaking stodgy old doctor, the whatever he was supposed to be, the uncle. He was the only one that made any sense in this movie. Um, he actually had some plan for. It's like, don't go down to the bottom of the ship. He's trying to trap us. He was the only one that made any sense whatsoever. But I mean, everyone else is
And
complete
they don't
fools.
listen to him,
Of course
of
not.
course.
Uh, it was just man, everybody. And let's talk about since we're talking about acting, let's talk about Kane's portrayal of Jason. What do you think of Jason's portrayal in this movie?
I can't wait to rant about this. Like, oh my god, like this is one of those movies like this is why my wife doesn't like horror. Like when this type of stuff happens, because she's always got to have the logic and stuff. So like when my wife watches horror movies with me, like she asks like a lot of questions and stuff. And I remember when I was showing her the Friday 13th franchise, and we got to this one. Oh, she got so mad. Like there's a couple that are the teleporting is out of control and it's really bad. Like this is the only movie where it really happens. Like the two worst ones I can remember is remember when the guy's climbing like the flagpole or whatever of the ship and Jason just is just up there and just throws him down. Or the other one, this one made my wife go off when the guy runs in the
The
building
building.
and he's on the second story and Jason's up there and just throws him out the window. Like what? Like that's the kind of stuff that makes people not want to watch horror movies. Like that's the kind of stuff in horror movies people make fun of. Like Jason's not supernatural. Again, you had a director that didn't understand the franchise at all. Like it makes me so mad how Jason's handled in this movie.
I mean, it's like I mean, I can't. Once again, I felt bad for the cast because no one had a chance of getting away from this guy. He could be anywhere at any time. Hell, they didn't even explain how he got to New York. I mean, off the cruise ship, he just walked across the bottom or
Walked on the
swam.
ocean floor. We know Jason can't swim.
I mean, how did he even know where to go? It's dark down there. Oh my gosh, but whatever. He's got a homing device in his brain. He can follow like 5 people through an entire city of people at night, right? No problem there. He can teleport ahead of people. He can come into a discotheque where there's like lights all around, strobing everywhere, and he can somehow sneak up right next to the girl in a complete 360 arc that she can't see him. It was just so bad. He was like Nightcrawler in this. He could just bamf, bamf, bamf to any freaking place he wanted to be, and it just takes any tension out of the movie. And it's such a ridiculous plot device. Like the dude that's climbing up the mast, that's kind of cool. He's trapped up there. Now where's he gonna go? Jason could have slowly climbed up there and killed him, and maybe he could have jumped to his own death or something. That could have been interesting. But no, he just teleports right behind the guy on the steps. It's like
Oh, it's so awful.
getting up to the uncle in the building. I mean, he looks down the road. There's Jason. All of a sudden, Jason's right behind him. It's like, is Jason
Bro,
magical? Is he magical now? It's so stupid, man. I mean, he's already the Terminator. You don't need to make him like a Poltergeist too. So, yeah, awful, awful Jason. He's like lumbering and not really menacing in this, other than the fact that he can be anywhere at all. So, just not a great portrayal, not a great characterization of him. I don't blame really Kane for that so much as just the direction. I didn't think he looked too good, and he sure didn't act like Jason for the most part. And here's what I want to know: how do you think his behavior was in the city once he finally hit land?
Well, you kind of hit this like it doesn't make any sense like how he was able to follow them like walking on the ocean floor, or like how why he just continued to follow those other girls, and like they just went for like the comedy, like, oh, I'm gonna squint my head at the hockey mask, or I'm gonna kick their boombox over, but I'm not gonna kill them. I'm gonna ignore all the people on the subway except for the people on. Oh, it's just, oh my god, they could have done so much, but oh my, this is one of the most poorly executed movies that I've ever seen. And God, I'm so mad at myself because I hate just like shitting on a movie, but like this movie deserves it. Like, this is the only Friday the 13th movie that I can't really defend. I have every other one, I think I can pretty much have more positives than that. Not this movie.
Yeah, it's so hard to defend this movie in any but realistic way because it's just bad. Here he is. He's loose. He's like the tiger loose in the freaking zebra cage, right? He has a world of victims, and he is just totally focused on these five. He actually like barrels through people just to get to these people. It doesn't kill those people he barrels through. He just barrels through them and just goes and goes and goes. And he is the single-minded Godzilla of like going after Tokyo. You know, he just cannot tear himself away to kill anybody else but the main characters. And well, he does kill those two junkies, and that's a hilarious scene. I'm sure a lot of bad guy junkies and robbers shoot up people they just met with heroin for no good reason, but whatever. Cringy scene there. Yeah, that was a great little scene where before he gets dumped in the toxic waste, and that's a recurring theme in this movie is toxic waste. I guess they had some sort of a penchant for environmental things, but yeah, just I didn't like him in New York, Vancouver, wherever the hell it was. Just made no sense at all. He actually meets Ken Kersinger in this movie too in the diner, and so you'll see two Jasons on screen at the same time for the first time ever in the series. It doesn't last very long. So just totally out of character. Everything about Jason is out of character in this movie, and the movie suffers for it. So we got a bad cast, we got bad makeup, we got mostly bad premise. Let's talk about the final act. Does it get saved here by the final act at all? Do you think, or is it just completely hopeless?
No, it's even worse than part 7 because he gets the toxic waste on him, and then he gets unmasked and he's got that really stupid looking face, and the whole sewers flooding at midnight with toxic waste is just a stupid plot device. And then so I'm gonna explain this to people, they don't understand it. So I understand this. Like when he turns into Kid Jason, it's stupid, but how I interpret that is that he's not really turning into Kid Jason. That's just like how she's imagining it in her mind. But how it's executed, it still looks stupid as hell.
It, I don't even want to get into this final act. It's so bad. For one thing, they can't get away from this guy, right? I mean, they can't get a moment to breathe in an entire city. They're separated by leagues of time with the subway stuff and just how he's finding them in a strange environment. Okay, like look, I'll pass to that. They go into like castle-like sewer system they have here in New York that apparently, its walls are 12 feet high, completely fills with this toxic waste that comes in a complete flood. And toxic waste was all the rage back in the 80s, but and barrels down upon everybody at midnight. It was just so goofy, and they still got a guy working around in there like 5 minutes before the the toxic sludge comes down the pipes, right? So totally contrived, totally ridiculous. The ending itself, where he melts down into kid form, it was caustic enough to melt his outer shell off, but it also reverts him to childhood. If they're trying to make sequel bait, I don't know what they were thinking with this one, but it was just freaking awful, made no sense, and he wasn't even deformed. He was just a kid laying on the freaking with underwear. He had underwear on. That was just kind of a nice touch too. Completely ridiculous. And you think all that toxic waste, the toxic waste is sludge, right? It's bad. It's like acid. You see it burn him earlier on when she hits him in the face with it. Those fumes didn't bother those kids like hovering 2 feet above this freaking toxic waste river that's flowing down there. No, they just hung out there till like daybreak or whenever the sludge moved out of the sewers. Complete ridiculous. Jason looks abysmal. He's never looked worse, ever in the series. And it's inexcusable that he looks like this on the budget, because the budget was pretty similar to what they had in the second one, even though they had to do a little more creative things because they had harder places to shoot at than just a camp. So I give him some leeway there. But if he's going to look that bad, just leave the mask on him. There's no. He looks like a rotten Cabbage Patch Kid, or like a mummified Cabbage Patch Kid at the end. Awful. He screams in pain, and he sounds like a walrus mating or something. I don't get that either. Just awful, awful ending. And but apparently it's a happy one because you got a dead kid in it. So I don't know what they were thinking, man. Just there's no saving this movie. I don't think. We'll get to the wrap up here in a second, but yeah, the final act is just horrible. Once again, there's no tension because these people cannot obviously get away from this guy unless they kill him. They're not getting away from him. So yeah, no tension. And plus, you don't care about the characters, so who cares if they die? I was kind of hoping the subway would run him over or they hit the third rail, but nope, just him. So let's talk about
what Gray Man and Meta said. Gray Man and Meta have some hilarious comments in the comment section.
These guys are hoots,
Toxic
man.
Avenger.
He does. I mean, it is like a Toxic Avenger. Think about
close enough.
I mean, it is the fountain of youth. We all start drinking toxic sludge. They should have put it in bottles. What were they thinking? I mean, did no one talk to the writing staff and say, no, I am not going to run with this? I mean, middle school students could have written a better ending than that. I mean like hyperbolic here. It was just so ridiculously bad. There's so much that just melt him. Just melt him, and he could like grow himself somewhere else. It made more sense than having a baby kid there. But anyway, I digress. So let's talk about overall ratings of this movie, because we spent enough time on this steaming pile. What would you give? What ranking would you give this movie in the overall echelon of these films?
It's definitely the worst in the franchise for me by quite a bit, but I will say this to kind of defend it a little bit. I don't think this is as bad as like Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation or like Freddy's Dead. I think this movie is still like watchably bad. Like I can see this being like if you're drunk and you have a group of friends, put on part 8. Like could you imagine like how much you would be laughing in that scenario? Like, oh my god.
It's almost like it's a so bad it's good movie. It doesn't even know it's trying to be bad, but I mean, so yeah, this has got to be the worst one for me. I don't think it's even a question. Part 9 is not exactly Citizen Kane, but this one just takes the cake because it's just not fun to watch. For one, that's another huge problem it has. It's just not fun to watch. When you don't care about the characters, you don't recognize the killer. He could be anybody at this point, not Jason, because the way he's acting. When you don't see the main thing you went into the movie to see, like Jason in a city doing what he does, like rampaging around, it's almost insulting to the viewer, and just the poor dialogue, the poor pacing, the poor acting is really just an assault to the eyes.
Bad kills except for one.
I mean, there's so little to recommend in this movie. I mean, and I don't know, just I gave it like a 1. That's the lowest score I can give anything, but it's I still would rather watch this than like I don't know, some rom-com or something, but still it's tough. You know, I just don't enjoy it. And definitely would be the last one I'd show anybody. Especially, I'd never show this as a first movie in this series if I was going to show anyone anything, because they'd never watch another.
They'll never watch. Not only will they never watch a Friday the 13th movie again, they'll never watch a horror movie again if you show them this movie.
It's just so bad. Logic, makeup, kills, and acting. There's so little. The only thing I liked in this movie was the premise of being on the cruise ship. I kind of dug that. That was a different, like I said, claustrophobic environment. It opened the way for something new because now it makes sense that no one can get away because, like you said, there's an ocean around them. They can't go anywhere. They have to be on the boat. So, but they even found New York by accident and fucking floating around in a dinghy, man. Just such a bullshit movie, man. But anyway, all right. So that next steaming pile got a lot of airtime out of us. So let's talk about probably the most divisive movie in the entire series. And that is Jason Goes to Hell. Technically part 9, but they changed ownership at this point, so they couldn't really call it that. So this is Adam Marcus's take on Friday the 13th mythology, and I actually did an interview with the guy. He's really interesting. He's got a lot to say about it, and some of it actually made sense. When he started talking about some of the stuff, like as far as continuity of the series goes, it kind of made some sense what he was trying to do. But let's talk about some initial thoughts about Jason Goes to Hell. What was your initial impressions of this movie?
So let's go ahead and get this out there. So it's probably my second least Friday the 13th movie, second least favorite after part 8. There's a big gap between part 8 and this movie. I think this movie's really underrated as hell, honestly. Now, it's not a good Friday the 13th movie because I don't like the look of Jason. They basically take Jason out of the movie. But as a general horror movie, I like it a lot. Like, I'll take this any day over that generic ass bad continuity story they gave us in part 8. Like, I respect a lot of the unique stuff that he was trying to do in this movie. So I think this one gets better for me on each watch, and I appreciate it more. I don't really ever see it getting out of the bottom two, like as a Friday movie, but like I think it's probably like a B, maybe B plus, like horror movie. Like I don't think it's bad at all.
Yeah, I agree too. I held a lot of hate for this movie for a long time. You know, I hadn't seen it much in a long time, just because of it. Kind of a way takes a dump on the series, but at the same time, it adds something. You know, and I've said this before, and you and I said this before too. It's like if this didn't have the name Friday 13th stuck on it, it would have been a much higher rated movie. If
Definitely.
you didn't have the expectations of Jason the way he was before this, uh, this is actually really inventive. And if you hadn't seen The Hidden, especially, it seems really inventive. But so there's a lot of good stuff in this movie to like. A lot of the execution was lacking, and still not a good movie, and it's still in the bottom three for me. But I give it a lot more credit than I used to, especially after the interview with him, because he pointed out some stuff that I'd never really considered before, as far as lore goes. And he's like, "What lore? There was no lore in this movie." And then he went through like half an hour of stuff about each movie and how it didn't make sense to the last one and all that. So I can kind of appreciate that. So he tried to give the fans some lore, and with mixed results. So let's go ahead and start with the intro. This one's a really wacky intro, if you ask me. So what's your take on how they kind of got the ball rolling in this movie?
Well, one thing that's always kind of bothered me, but I'll give it a pass because Jason Takes Manhattan fucked everything up like so bad. Like, how you going to get Kid Jason out of Manhattan? You really can't. So, like, Jason just shows up in this movie and he looks really weird. But I kind of like the whole idea of like they throw everything on its head. And it's like, oh, innocent girl at the camp. No, undercover FBI agent leading Jason into an ambush and they blow Jason to pieces within like the first 5 minutes. You're always like, what the hell? Like every time you watch this one. So I think the open is like really creative.
Yeah, I do too. Didn't see it coming at all. And most of the time, these movies are pretty ham-fisted when it comes to stuff like that. But yeah, I did not see them setting him up. Now, of course, the ring of death they put him in is completely ridiculous. They would have had so much friendly fire there; it's not even funny. But that's just the fire lanes and me talking. But it was really inventive, and it was an interesting way of okay. We start out in the first 5 minutes by killing the unkillable killer. Wow, that's something different. And so that part I didn't have any argument with, other than Jason looking completely ridiculous. His big, huge, bulbous head and tucked in shirt and purple uniform with a big, wide belt. He looks so bad in this. And he, once again, he's crying out in pain again. So is he human Jason again, or is he dead Jason? Yeah, it was so goofy. So the execution was a little bit poor, but it was interesting. And then from there, we go into maybe the longest title sequence in movie history, which I wish they would have done differently. I like the coroner scene, but I can't stand the way it's chopped up like it is. It's so annoying to get through.
It's really annoying.
It was inventive, it was different, and this is how we establish that Jason's a whole other can of tuna in this one, no pun intended. And a really gross out scene where the coroner eats the heart and transfers Jason to his own body. But yeah, it takes like 10 minutes to get through this freaking intro, and then it's interspersed with, directed by, acted by, and it's got the worst score that Harry Manfredi's ever done. It's got like this dun 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 dun. Oh, it's used throughout the
Yeah.
movie. It's just awful. Usually he's really solid, but so we find out now that Jason is, like I said, a different animal than he's ever been before. He's a body swapper now at this point. And so, what did you think about the new iteration of Jason? It just came out of left field for me? I mean, I was like, when I first saw it, I'm like, what the hell is this? But
I thought it was really bad, but on what Grayman's saying in the comments, is I've never really talked to Adam Marcus, but I know like Esley's interviewed him and stuff. Like Sean Cunningham is a douche because like he said that, and then like when the movie didn't go well, he tried to throw Adam Marcus under the bus and basically blame him for everything because Paramount had like they had such a negative attitude about the Friday the 13th franchise. So like let's do something. I just don't understand like how people get so mad about this movie because they're like, let's do something different, and then no, give us the same thing that like we hated in part eight, and they do something different, and then people get mad about it. Like I don't understand.
Yeah, I know what the studio execs were expecting because the series had been on decline as far as financials go for a long time now, several movies in a row. So they expecting some great resurgence. I don't know, but it sounded like he was put in basically an unwinnable situation at this point, and I think the execs knew it was probably going to fail, and so they kind of gave him carte blanche, and then they had the perfect whipping boy when it didn't go well. But so yeah, it's a new dynamic here. Jason's moving around body to body, and he obviously wants to get back to Crystal Lake. And now we have some new lore, which we find out later in the movie. I won't get into all of that, of course; it's too much to go through. But basically, Jason needs to find a relative, which we didn't know he had anymore. So let's go ahead and talk about the like atmosphere and the set pieces in this movie. So what did you think about the trials and tribulations of everyone's favorite Voorhees throughout this movie?
Hmm. I thought they did some interesting things with the setting because they basically took him out of the camp pretty much. And I think the idea of like Jason rampaging a police station, and I'm going to say Jason because I mean he's not, you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Like in this movie, like he rampaged the police station and a diner and everything else. So like I like some things they do with the set, the Voorhees house. Like they do some things with the setting that are really interesting and creative in this movie that I really like.
Yeah, I mean, even the diner set was kind of cool. I mean, that's different. You know, it's it's full of people usually, and not what you expect, especially for a final act to be happening, and a lot of it happens in there. But there's like an old Voorhees house. It introduces the old Voorhees house. So that's new. It's like Michael Myers there, I guess, right? Uh, you got homing once again. Jason's like a homing pigeon. He's got to get back to Camp Crystal Lake. He's got to get back there. So it like ties in with the whole curse thing. Like he has to be a part of this land, right? And his relatives, I guess, stayed around there too for some damn reason. But most of the set pieces were okay. And yeah, it was different to see him like Terminator style going through the police station. So yeah, I can't really complain about too many of the set pieces in this. And the Voorhees house is kind of creepy. A little bit too well lit, and there's so many continuity errors there because like there's electric lights on all the time. It's like who's paying the bill out there, or whatever. But so that was interesting. You see the decayed outside of it with the old play sets and all that. So you can kind of feel for like, oh, that was Kid Jason's place, 40 years ago, however long it was. But so yeah, some decent sets. Not the progression was weird. It just jumped so fast from next place to the next. That was kind of weird. So there was not much of a sense
Yeah,
of time and scale. I think he tried to do an end run about that with a news report. Like for 2 weeks, we've been finding bodies around, going back to Crystal Lake or whatever it was. So they kind of tried to retcon a little bit with that, but so it's kind of a jumpy movie as far as that goes. But speaking of jumps, was there any scares or good kills to be had in this movie for you?
I thought there was a lot of kills. Now I will say this: like, if you're watching this one, you got to make sure you're watching the right version. There's like an unrated version of it, and it has even more gore. So make sure like you're not watching the R version, you're watching the unrated version, and you already know where I'm gonna go with one of these kills. The tent kill. Oh my God. You get like that crazy graphic sex scene, and then Jason comes up with a tent pole and splits the girl in half. And it's even better on like the unrated version, like you see anymore. That's like definitely top 10, maybe top five in the franchise for me. Like it is graphic. Like he splits her right in half. It is crazy.
Yeah, that one made my top 10. I don't think I've seen the unrated one. So even just the R cut was enough. It was just so it was a brutal thing, and it wasn't even, it was Jason doing it, but it was a different character doing it too. But it kind of shows he's still powerful no matter what body he's in. Um, and he'll take the time, even on his way back to the camp, to kill some random people having sex too. So it's kind of in keeping with the character, right? But yeah, so there were some pretty decent kills in this. Not too bad. Especially when he goes in the diner, he just goes wild in there, starting in the parking lot and working his way through. It's it's there's some
The
inventive
guy's
kills in there.
hand.
Yeah,
Remember the hand one
that's
where he like Oh,
He breaks both of his arms or whatever it was, and it's just so brutal to watch. That one's hard to watch.
and then you get the most satisfying kill of the movie, I think. You have that bitch woman at the diner who's been running her mouth the whole movie, and you just want to punch her in the face. And what does Jason do? I forget if it's like an
It's
elbow
an
or if he
elbow.
does like this, but like he elbows her and like knocks her mouth in, and I just like applaud every time.
And
That is such a good kill too.
And if you think about it, he's like brutalizing that little cook, man. He throws his face in the fryer. He's holding his face down in the fryer. It's like, oh my gosh, this guy's that's he may be a different bottle, but he's still got no chill. But yeah, there was a mortician in it. Well, it was the coroner, Gray Man. Um, he didn't really want to be
I
possessed, but
took
he
it
had no
that he was
choice.
like tranced, like he
Yeah,
couldn't help it. Like the heart put him in a trance,
trance.
and like he literally couldn't resist. Is how I interpret it because it makes like this humming sound or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like he's in some kind of
You see him kind
trance.
of zoning in on it, and it's like, yeah. But so there were some pretty decent kills to be had here. Um, but did we care who got killed? Did we care about the cast of characters in this movie? I guess that's the next question.
I don't think it's an amazing cast, but I think it's a big step up from 7 and 8. Because I like Steven. I thought Steven was likable, and I cared about his character. And I think True mentioned this earlier. I don't know if True's still in here, but Creighton Duke. Oh my God, Creighton Duke is a phenomenal character. I think of a little girl in a pink dress sticking a hot dog through a donut, and all the other stupid shit that he says. Your girl just hadn't had a taste of the Duke yet. I love him. He's like a top 10 character in the franchise for me.
He needed his own movie, and there were some plans to give him a spinoff movie. But yeah, it was just Stephen William not only chewed the scenery, he ate it with Rick and Marinara in this movie. He just destroyed every scene he was in, and he was very. He was definitely the one you can tell wanted to be there. But I myself, yeah, most of the cast was pretty weak. I couldn't believe how bad Erin Gray was as the sister or whatever. Jeez, I remember her from Buck Rogers, and all that. And you think getting a name like that, even if a washed out name, she would have done a little more. But she was so phoning it in this movie. And like her daughter, I guess that's what Jason's niece or whatever that, and she was bad. I like the slimy TV guy. He was kind of cool. I think Stephen Culp, I think was his name, not
Yeah,
his real life
he was
name.
pretty solid too.
He was interesting. I liked him. He was so bad. You liked him. You find out at first you liked him. You thought he was a decent guy. Then you found out he's a total douchebag and slime
Oh,
bag.
such a
He's like,
douche.
not only did I find the house or whatever, I fucked his daughter. He was just such a jerk. And then, but no good was going to come of him. But so yeah, there was, and I like the diner duo, like the harpy and the little cook guy. I thought they were kind of funny. But
Yeah, they were good too.
most other people I don't really care for in this movie. And like I said, Creighton Duke just stole it. He stole every scene he was in. And even though you don't really see him a lot, you think you'd see him more in this movie, but you really don't see him that a whole lot.
They should have given him more scenes, honestly. I would have liked to seen him maybe play like more of like the Steven role in the movie. Like he needed to be more of a focal point. I think the movie would have been even better.
Yeah, I totally agree because they can make Steven look kind of, I don't know, goofy at times and kind of
Yeah,
juvenile.
yeah.
And it would have been a better fight at the end, I think, if it had been Creighton. But whatever, you can't have it all. So yeah, definitely a step up in the character department especially from the last film. So there was some life. It was really uneven, but I'd say about half the cast did a pretty decent job. What'd you think of Jason's portrayal in this movie? Even though you didn't really see much of Jason per se.
God,
What?
it's like it's so hard to like grade that and discuss that because like we already said the look of Jason was kind of shit and how he grunts and stuff. And then you don't really see Jason. So like I can't, I feel like I don't even count this movie as like a Jason portrayal. This almost isn't a Friday the 13th movie. Like literally, I could cut out probably 10 minutes. If I cut the right 10 minutes out, you would know. Like Jason's in this movie probably what 10 minutes,
If
if
that, yeah.
that. Like not like you wouldn't even know.
Yeah, and what time you do see Jason, he's not scary in the slightest. He's even more oafish and bumbling than he is in part two. You can't ever seal the deal when he's in Jason form. Just looks ridiculous. And the fact that he reses with all of his torn up clothing and disfigurements and rot and bullet wounds and all that. That makes zero sense either. How he is reborn is completely vile and disgusting. I mean, what? How,
It
oh
makes no sense at all. He
no.
comes I mean, at least in Elm Street, you had baby Freddy. Like, he just comes out as like full grown Jason. Like, what did that woman explode or something?
Oh
Like, how's he
no.
going to come out as full grown Jason? Like, it just doesn't. It didn't really make
Oh. And I'm
sense.
not a prude, but I mean, just how he went about it. Couldn't he just crawled in her mouth or something? I mean, it was just so.
Yeah, like did we have to have that? I heard they didn't tell the woman they added that shot in until she saw it in the theater, and that they added
Oh,
the shot of the thing like going in that way.
oh
God, so
man,
nasty.
that was bad. But whatever, you know. Okay, they're young. Maybe he did what he wanted to do, but whatever. Yeah. So Jason and his many iterations weren't all that impressive. I did like him as the coroner. He had a kind of a gravity about him. He just kind of hunched a little bit and kind of staring straight ahead, but he looked really kind of intense. Um, but like I said, you don't see enough Jason in this movie to really merit too much of a dissection about him because he's just like basically a bit player in this movie. So it's just the idea of Jason that's supposed to be the killer. So we've established that there's some pretty decent kills in this, decent acting, maybe a poor Jason, and some decent set pieces. So right now we're kind of middle of the road. So let's talk about maybe the overall story of this movie. So they took it into a new direction. So what was your take on the whole premise of this movie?
I didn't really like it. Like, I don't like when they don't reference any. Mrs. Voorhees says in the first movie, Jason was her only child. Like, I feel like to go back and retcon that was like super disrespectful. Like, I feel like it shouldn't have been done unless they would have been specific that, like, that's like his half sister or something. Like, the dad had a kid with another woman, but they don't come out and say that. So, like, it goes, no sequel should ever like cancel out something that was established in an earlier movie like that, because they clearly established in part one she didn't have any other kids, and then like, oh, there's this magic dagger that can kill Jason and nobody's had up until this point. Like, I like the stuff with the Necronomicon, that was cool, but like the whole dagger and him having relatives and a relative has to kill Jason, like, I didn't like that.
Yeah, that was just so weird. And it was out of left field, and he not only has one relative, he has multiple relatives now. It's just so odd. And then it kind of the continuity is weird too because like he kills the one relative. He doesn't even finish the deal, and he kills her. Why did he kill her? He should have just left and come back. Or that was the problem. I don't know. It was just it was weird how he killed Aaron Gray's character like that. So yeah, it has to be Voorhees. Okay, I guess that makes it I don't know somewhat like stressful or suspenseful in some way, but I guess if the daughter and the little baby die, I guess Jason can never be reborn. Is it maybe better for humanity if they don't if they don't live? But you know that's things for another
You got to cremate the
conversation.
bodies so
So
they
you
don't
can't
have
crawl
to
into
be
them.
alive.
But
Got to cremate those bodies.
I wasn't a real big fan of the story and the direction this took. As a Friday the 13th movie, that's the caveat. Just too
Yeah.
different and. While he did make some attempts to explain it by just showing the Necronomicon and a little bit of exposition by Creighton Duke, you don't really. Where did this mystical stuff come from? You know, it's like this has never been around before, and how do we know this is going to work? How does Creighton know this stuff is? He needs the dagger to kill, and it just there's no answers here of why things are so different now. And like I said, I know he needed to do something. He wanted to do something different, and that's fine. But I just wasn't real crazy about the execution of it. So yeah, that was probably the weakest aspect of this movie for me was a lot of the story and the fact that it's just some of it didn't make any sense at all. But I mean, it makes sense when you go back and read about it on forums and you can hear the director talk about it later on about what his vision was and what the idea was. But it just on a first viewing, if you had never seen or heard any of that other stuff that people said, you probably wouldn't know what the heck was going on. So that was kind of a disappointment for me. Um, so final act, what did you think about the end scenes? Obviously, you're other typing, so I'll talk a little longer. I'll go ahead and go in that one first. For the
No,
fi-
you're good. I was answering somebody. I'm on the chat on my phone. I was answering somebody in the comments. I try to multitask and reply to comments in the comment section too.
You actually have a
Now, I didn't
question
think
here.
Rise of Skywalker completely ignored it. They reference things from The Last Jedi, like the Force connection between Rey and Kylo. They kept that intact, and they kept Luke dead and stuff. Like they did keep a lot of the continuity from Last Jedi.
So final act here. Unless we're done with Star Wars. I mean, I haven't seen the last two,
No,
so
we're
yeah, I
done.
don't care.
They can
But
watch my spoiler review if they're
yeah,
interested.
yeah. He's got reviews of all the movies there, so make sure you get over his channel and check him out. I'm not watching Star Wars anymore, so I was so pissed off from Force Awakens, I refused to give my money. I won't even watch it for
So you've
free.
never seen The Last Jedi?
No, I have no desire to see it
Don't
whatsoever.
do it. If The Force Awakens makes you mad,
Mm.
you're gonna like bust your TV if you watch The Last Jedi.
Yeah,
Oh my god, I couldn't imagine if you Force Awakens made you that mad. Don't ever watch The Last
it
Jedi.
was an insult, not just to Star Wars fan, but just to movie fans, if you ask
Yeah,
me. But
never, ever, ever watch
uh,
The Last
no,
Jedi. Then
I've seen enough reviews and other things about that. I think I know better now. But and I didn't really care for Rogue One that much either, to be honest with you, other than maybe like the last 5 minutes of it. But I'm just probably in the minority there. But whatever. So back to Friday here. The last act. So how do you think that this movie wrapped itself up? What do you think of Jason's becoming and unbecoming again?
I think other than the Freddy glove thing, I think that the whole last act's really forgettable, honestly. Like I don't really think it's that good, and I don't think it was that well executed for me. Like this movie has probably one of the weaker last acts in the franchise, I think.
Yeah, they take something that's been so cool. It's like Jason is going to go to hell, and they made it boring. I mean, it just oh, that last act is off. It's hard to watch, man. It's them trying to get the dagger. The dagger flies across the room and under a couch. So we got that trope going on. And then we got the world's worst like wrestling scene ever between Jason and this kid. Jason cannot seal a deal. He's had this problem in the past, but usually it's because he can't get a hold of a person too well. And this one, he has this kid dead to rights. I don't know how many different times, and he just doesn't do it. He'd rather throw him around than actually kill this kid. I was like, just kill him. I was sitting there yelling at the screen, just kill this guy for God's sake. Awful, awful final fight. And then she flies out of nowhere to finish him off with a dagger, and then he does his like ninja kick or whatever, and then shoves it in deeper. And then we got these gigantic floppy hands come on the ground to drag him down. Bad execution. That wasn't what it needed. It'd have been cooler just to have the ground open up and try to suck him down, and him fight against that. Maybe even rip himself in half trying to get away from it or something. But no, it was just weird, drawn out, and kind of unnecessary. Tried to make it too supernatural, I guess. But yeah, just if the lead up to it had been so hilariously bad with him throwing that kid around for 10 minutes, including the jungle
Yeah,
gym, it might be a
they
little better.
literally played on the jungle gym.
It was so bad. Apparently, that jungle gym set was using the birds, the movie The Birds. So interesting little
That's
factoid there.
cool.
But and that was the original Necronomicon too prop. So, but yeah, the final act was just bad. It was cool to see him go down to hell, I guess, and it was a nice wrap up, I suppose. Had some cool rotoscoping too, but yeah, just a bad final act. And at that point, I really didn't care too much anymore anyway. So yeah, it was sorry to see Creighton go though. But other than that, yeah, not too much to recommend it. So let's go ahead and wrap up on this one and talk about your thoughts. What did you think about this movie overall as it came to Friday the 13th, or as it comes from?
Like I said, it's bottom two for me, but it's a big step up from part eight, and I probably grade it like a B overall. I don't think this movie's anywhere near as bad as like people try to say it is. It's just not a good Friday the 13th movie because there's not hardly any Jason, and what you do get of Jason, especially the end, is not good. Is kind of how I feel about it. I love like the opening scene's cool and the middle of the movie. Once Jason comes back at the end, the movie sort of falls apart for me.
Yeah, and it kind of throws out the door everything we've been seeing earlier because now it's just a race to keep him away from a body or away from a person. It's like just get in a car and leave. I don't. It's just so contrived and ridiculous, and you have to make these giant leaps of logic and distance and time to to make any sense of it. So I myself find it overall pretty weak as far as the Friday series goes. But as a standalone movie, it's much better. Like I said, just take Jason's names out of it, and you already got a much better movie because you don't go in those expectations. So I can appreciate rewriting lore or adding lore to a character, but I don't know, it just didn't work too well for me in this movie. But it is what it is. Definitely one of the weaker movies of the series for me, probably bottom three for me. So, but now we're getting on to a lot of people's favorite whipping boy. Jason not only has seen Manhattan and not only has he ventured around in different bodies, he's also a time traveler now too. So let's talk about the next iteration of Zombie Jason, and that is none other than Jason X. So okay, we have some different stuff going on. We need to kill some time because we're gonna do a Freddy vs. Jason movie. We already know this is gonna happen, but we want to build up the character again because people haven't seen him for like 10 years. So we got to put a movie out there. So let's throw something together and do something different with him. We're also gonna do it in a way that's not gonna screw up continuity of current time. Sorry, my phone's ringing. So let me go ahead and give me your take on the initial parts of this movie and the initial premise of what you think about it.
I think for a lot of people, because I know people who hate this movie, but I really like this movie. I think your enjoyment of this movie is going to depend on how you feel about like so bad it's good movies. Because for me, I like movies like Thanksgiving or Jack Frost or like Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. So I really like so bad it's good movies. Like this is not the type of movie that like you can sit and you can analyze the story and take it seriously. Like this is just like you laugh at how bad the acting is. You laugh at how ridiculous the story is. And you could kind of tell when they were making this movie that like they didn't take it seriously. Like they're trying to make a so bad it's good movie. But like if you don't like so bad it's good movies, I could definitely see somebody be like, this is the worst one in the franchise. Because if the humor does not land for you in this movie, you are not going to like this movie at all. That's kind of how I feel about it.
My take on the premise is I freaking love it. I love the idea of Frozen Jason coming back 200 years later. I just it's so cheesy and tropish, and I love it. I freaking love it. I like the set pieces, and I just kind of dig. I kind of dig the idea of it. You're taking them into a completely different environment, but you can leave them basically the same. So this movie did a lot to take him into a different direction, but they kind of kept it the same too until the very end. So I went into this movie. In fact, I saw this movie like 8 or 9 years after it came out, just like on a torrent or something, and I was like, "Wow, that's different." But we'll get into the nuts and bolts of it a little bit. So, okay, we've established that Jason is now in the future, and he is thawed out, and he's back to his old tricks. So let's talk about the set pieces. What did you think about the whole sci-fi setting of this movie?
Like it's nice to have like the claustrophobic spaceship setting, and some of the stuff looks like fake and cheesy, but it's kind of got like that charm to it, like the first Alien did. Like I always like laugh when you see like advanced graphics in a supposedly futuristic movie, and it just looks like bad, but like it all kind of ties together. Like I can see somebody being like, the setting looks stupid, the set pieces are bad, everything looks fake, but like that adds to like the hilariousness of it for me.
Yeah, I mean, some of the scenes or some of the set pieces a little bit cheesy, but I thought most of them looked pretty good. I love the bunker scenes when it's all dressed up as old and all that. The cryogenic freezer. Most of the ship looks pretty good. The command center looks awesome, and so does the surgery bay when we first see it. I think that looks pretty good. The corridors are pretty generic and all that, and way too well lit for a horror movie. Except for that one room that everyone goes into to die, the big room where all the Marines die or whatever it was. But for the overall, I kind of like the set pieces in this. I thought it looked pretty good. I mean, wasn't too much cheese factor. It could have been a lot worse, like Buck Rogers era freaking technology. And you're right, it's hard to
Yeah.
show future, especially in limited budget, future technology how it's supposed to look. When it's like something we have like right now on our smartphones. But so I had no problem with the set pieces. I thought they looked pretty decent, and overall, the film I think looked pretty polished as far as a low budget movie goes. It definitely. Something you could probably do in a made for TV movie, probably, but still, I mean, it looked pretty good. Um, so, what did you think about the cast of this movie? So, we'll talk about like humor and all that a little bit later, but what did you think about the cast and like their repartee between each other? Because there's a lot of meta humor in this one too, and the way they behaved around Jason.
I forget her name, but I thought the girl from the past or whatever, the final girl, I actually thought she was well acted and she gave a pretty good performance. Like I felt like she was, taking it reasonably seriously and like she was reined in, and I thought she was good. And the guy that likes the robot, I thought he was pretty solid as well. The black guy who leads the Marines, he's pretty solid too. A lot, I could see people be like the acting is terrible in this movie, but like I feel like they intentionally like directed that way for certain characters to like act that way just to add to like the humor factor, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I don't. This is not one of those movies that's so bad it's good on accident. This is one it's on purpose. It
Yeah.
was meant. The humor was meant to be meta. It was meant to be kind of cheesy and ridiculous and self-referential, and it makes no bones about it. I mean, it's very, very lighthearted as far as the series goes when it comes to mood. But there's a little bit of tension to be had later on as he stalks these poor people through there. But yeah, I thought the cast was really pretty decent in some parts. A lot of the younger ones were pretty weak, and they were obviously stereotypes or whatever. But I mean, there were some things that just laugh out loud funniness, and it's pretty hard to go from that and then go to like what was it, Sergeant Brodsky? He was really played well, deadpan, but then he would put out one-liners too. So some of the things were a little bit cringy, but I think for the most part, yeah, I did like Rowan too. Lexa Dewig was the one who played her. Uh, she had kind of a grittiness to her and an inevitability because she knew who she was dealing with, So, um, yeah, it was kind of flippant at points, but I like the cast overall. They were likable cast, and you kind of rooted for someone like the geek who built the android. I liked him. I liked Sergeant Brodsky. I liked the main character, Rowan. So most of the people were kind of likable, and I wasn't in a huge hurry to see Jason butcher them all. But so not bad on that. So let's talk about butchering itself. What did you think about the kills in this movie? Were they worthy of story and song, or were they just kind of meh?
Obviously, we got to talk about the liquid nitrogen kill. Like, that's awesome. Like, that's one of my favorite kills in the franchise. When he shows the girl's head in the liquid nitrogen and busts it on the counter, and then, like, her face is gone. Phenomenal. That's the only, like, gory kill. But, like, there's some effective kills that really add to the humor. Like, when the guy falls down the thing, and then the girl's like, he's screwed or whatever.
Yeah, the
That was
auger.
really
Yeah.
stupid. And when the girl gets, like, sucked out the ship, and she's like, "This sucks on so many levels." I'm trying to think of, and then Brodsky's like, "It's gonna take more than one poke to bring this
Mm-hmm.
guy down." And then Jason stabs him, and he's like, "That'll do
Do
it."
it.
And then ironically, he actually comes back for more later. But like, and then the virtual reality slutty girls or whatever, when Jason comes in and starts killing them. Oh my god! Like, the kills aren't necessarily gory except for the liquid nitrogen kill, but they really are funny. They do a good job of like having kills that are entertaining to watch and make you laugh. The pun, I love a good pun, and this movie has several puns to go with its jokes.
That's the truth. There's a lot of variety too in the kills in this movie. And like I said, there's not a lot of gore. I think only one of them made my top 10. It was the neck break one, just because I liked it. It was kind of brutal and simplistic. I like that in a good kill. But I don't know. He dispatches people pretty decently in this movie actually, and yeah, it's hilarious to watch him just destroy the two kids, the girls in the freaking sleeping bags. Not just one, but two of them. He's like stacking them like cordwood at the end. But so yeah, other than them joking while they're dying, that's kind of ridiculous. But it's in keeping with the ridiculousness of this movie. So I had no real problem with the kills at all, and Jason gets freaking brutalized. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on too. So we established that the cast is decent and the kills were probably better than average, I'd say, on this movie. Uh, what did you think about like the comedy elements mixed with the horror in this movie? Because that's kind of the calling card of this flick. Was this more of a comedy horror, or is it just a horror movie with some comedy elements?
Oh, it was definitely like 50-50, if not more. Like, it definitely leans on the comedy, and like we said earlier, it's totally going for like the so bad it's good factor. Like, it has like that Thanksgiving or Jack Frost or Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 humor that I love, because some people may not like those types of movies, but I love like So Bad It's Good horror movies is such an underrated and fun horror subgenre to me.
Yeah, it was like it took like American Werewolf in London in a much more lowbrow like direction, but it was still the same kind of idea. It took because it can be welded very well if you have a good director and good writing. Like American Werewolf in London is one of my favorite movies of all time because it's so amazingly
Yeah,
funny
it's amazing.
and serious all at the same time. But this one, it just went all out for the comedy for the most part. So for any time you build any suspense at all, then they come off and crack a joke. It's almost like the Marvel formula. They just can't stop joking the whole time. So I think it works well for what it is, and at least it stays consistent. It doesn't start completely serious from the get go and then get stupid and funny. It starts off stupid and it just continues this way completely to the end. So I can really dig it for that. So I think that part of the movie works really well. So let's talk about Jason a little bit. We got two different iterations of Jason here, both played by the same man, but kind of different MOs. So what was your thoughts on how Jason was realized in this movie?
The more I watch this, the more I feel like I love Uber Jason, obviously, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that in a little bit. I didn't love the look of like regular Jason in this movie. I thought he kind of looked like shit. Like you could kind of see his eyes, and he looked kind of human still, and he had like hair, if I remember right. Like I didn't really like what he was wearing, but I definitely didn't like how like human Jason looked in the face in this one. Like it just annoys me every time I watch it.
Yeah, it was weird. Upon like multiple viewings, you can see like he's wearing like a purple outfit under his jacket. And it's like that's just strange. He's got like kinky gray hair now. All of a sudden, it's like close to his scalp, and it's just weird. He's got the big bulbous head again. So once again, is he the human Jason or is he the zombie Jason? He's acting like zombie Jason, but he's looking like more like human Jason here. He's way too
Exactly. You said
yeah.
that perfectly. That's what bothers me.
That is a sticking point. He looks too wide. He just looks too big in this movie. Not necessarily muscular big. He just looks too wide. Like he's wearing lots of extra padding
Yeah.
in this to fill out a hallway. You know what I mean? To make it look like it's harder to get
Yep.
around him or something. So there's
Definitely.
that. So yeah, I wasn't crazy about the look of him. Uber Jason was just ridiculous. Oh my gosh, he was so he's so ridiculous. He looked good though. I'll say this: he looked pretty good, especially his mask. His head looked really good. His body was give or come and go, but yeah, he was such a ridiculous concept. Let's just go ahead and get that out of the way right now. We have
I've
regular
been waiting to talk about that scene for a while. Oh my god.
we got regular Jason, and then basically KM completely wrecks the guy. She tears him apart. I mean, body parts of his are flying off. He's got his head completely blown off, and then we have the old sci-fi trope of the nanites to kind of fix everything. But then he turns into Uber Jason, what this movie is all about. So, what did you think about this movie and Jason in particular when he became his more metal self?
Well, just backing it up a second, I think one of the most hilarious parts of the movie is right before he becomes Uber Jason, when he's about to kill them, and the android comes out, and she's wearing like black leather and everything, and then she has these guns, and she starts doing all these flips and fighting Jason and stuff, and then starts shooting him. It's like so campy, but like hilarious as hell though. Like, and then she knocks him on the one place, like, oh, okay, let's knock him on the table so he can regenerate. But like, I loved her fight with Jason, and then like when he gets resurrected and he comes back, and then he just like punches her head off like easily or whatever. That was really funny too.
It was so funny because actually, when I first saw it, I thought he just killed her in one hit when she first shows up, and it's like I was like, oh my gosh. After all that build up, she comes out looking like a badass, and he just kills her. But then she does come back. That was kind of cool. She's like, "Gotcha, that was badass." And then she does. It looks pretty ridiculous how she's jumping around and turning the gun all sideways and stupid crap like that. But it's she must put like 700-800 rounds into the guy, and she turns him into hamburger basically. And then he's rezzed as super powerful Jason. He can knock down bulkheads with one punch now. Basically, he's completely invulnerable at this point. So he's like Jason on serious steroids. I wasn't really a fan of Uber Jason, to be honest with you. All tension is gone because like you can't hurt this guy. I mean, there's nothing you can do to him. So what's the point? But it was funny. It was cool and it was different. So and I think I think he's still alive. I don't know what you think, but anyway, I don't think reentry killed him. But anyway, so let's talk about the final act of this movie. We'll get into some more of the specifics here in a bit. But so, what do you think about the end portion of this movie?
It's pretty good. Like you get the scene where like he punches the robot's head off. They're running from him. They use the hologram to distract him. We already talked about that earlier and how hilarious that was. And then I like how like they get off the ship and it blows up and you have that stupid moment where Jason's floating in space and like he grabs onto the other ship and like punches his way in or whatever. It's just so crazy. Like the whole last act is just ridiculous. Then Brodsky comes out of like nowhere and dramatically grabs him, and they both burn up and re-entry. Like it's not an amazing final act, but I feel like it fit like the tone and like what the movie was going for really well.
Yeah, it was big. It was bombastic. It was just I don't know. It did kind of come out of left field because it turned into escape the ship, and then you get rid of Jason, and you still have to escape the ship because it's going to blow up. So there's like a double whammy going on here. So that was kind of interesting, kind of an alien-esque feel to it a little bit there. A lot of this movie is alien-esque. Um, I think wasn't that one kid's name Dallas too? So and that's kind of homage to the original. But anyway, I the final act is just so ridiculous. It's so over the top, and it's not scary or tense in the least, but it is entertaining, man. I'll give it that. It's popcorn at its finest. It's like everyone is so upbeat and up tempo. I mean, she's like, "You guys might want to run right now," and he just punches her head clean off, and she's still there. She's still alive, and he grabs her head. He's running around with her head, and she's still talking to him. It's like so ridiculous. It's just great, man. Brodsky's still in the fight. He's been repaired. He sacrifices himself. That's kind of cool. Jason floating on the green screen with wire work straight like Jaws from Jaws 3D at the ship. That was interesting. Uh, I like the last act. I think it fits the movie pretty well. It's like I said, there's zero tension, there's zero horror at this point, but it's just kind of a fun all out romp, and it's a good way to close this movie, I think. So any specifics that you really want to mention in this movie? Because I think there's a couple that do bear mentioning in this that you really want to point out that you think were executed very well.
Not really. Just like the liquid nitrogen kill, and then I thought the humor was just really well executed. Like this movie always makes me laugh like several times. Like when the couple are doing it, and then Jason just wakes up to that. That's pretty ridiculous. And then like he just wanted his machete back, and then you hear him dying off screen. Like the humor, just like all the jokes land for me in this one.
Yeah, it was. They did the humor so well. I mean, it was corny, it was goofy, but it just works. I just like it, and the freaking hologram, man. Hey there, you want to smoke some pot? It
That's
cracks
some
me up.
premarital sex. We love premarital
It
sex.
cracks me up every time. That movie takes itself zero seriously, and it gives zero f's about it, and it just throws it out there because it wants to. It's great. I like the VR scene at the beginning too, when they're fighting the holographic monsters. That looks cool because he kind of gets in on the action too. It's like, but why can he see those if he's not wearing the helmet? But whatever, I don't care. Just there's so much to like about this movie. I love the premise. Let's just get into that wrap up here. What did you think about this movie? I'll go ahead and lead it off. I love the way this movie is made. I like the premise of it. I like the fact I can turn my brain off and not worry about continuity or lore or even if the kill's going to be good or not, and then I can just sit back and enjoy this movie. Uh, they did so much right with this, and they were lambasted pretty hard, and I can see why. It's not really a pure Friday movie in the fact that it's just so lighthearted, and I don't know, the setting is just so different, and Jason is a lot different that I can see it turning people off, and the humor probably gets to people. But I enjoy it. I enjoy what it's for. I think it's executed well. I would love to see a sequel to this on New Earth, Earth 2, as Metrog was saying earlier. But Night Gray, appreciate you hanging out. It's really late for him. He's over in Britain, by the way. Um, I love this movie. I watch it. This is probably in my top three of ones I can just watch because it's just so fun to watch. And I've probably seen this one just about as many times as any of the other ones. And I hate to say that as a purist fan, but I make no bones about it. I like this movie, and some people are just so uptight in their fanboyism that they can't like this movie just because. but I like it for what it is. It's a fun, good natured romp, and turn your brain off and just enjoy. So, what's your thoughts?
I kind of want to put it in and watch it after we're done with the stream. Honestly, it's probably bottom five in the franchise for me, just because like it's not really a conventional Jason movie, but like as a so bad it's good movie, it's like when I'm ranking my so bad it's good movies, like this one would be high up there. You know?
It was like part eight was so bad it really wasn't good, but that was a movie that was intentionally trying to be bad or good. This movie is intentionally trying to be bad, and it makes it entertaining. I don't know. They went in two different directions, so I really dig it. I would give this one like a 4, 4, 5 out of 5 just for
Yep,
enjoyment factor.
I agree.
Um, like I said, it's not a great horror movie. If you're looking for horror, this is not the place to go. It's like this is a comedy with some horror additions and sci-fi. It's got a lot of different genres in it. Pretty decent cast of characters, decent kills, decent special effects, and some pretty good laughs that usually hit. So yeah, but we're almost done. We got one more to go, and I appreciate everyone who has made it this far with us. We've been talking for over 2 hours now. It's so easy to go way long on these movies because I love them so much. Um, let's talk about another one that is really contentious among the community, and that is Freddy versus Jason. This is the movie we were all wanting. I'm not sure when you were born. I was born in '76, so all through the '80s, Jason and Freddy. Everyone had always theorized, let's put these Godzilla and King Kong together. Let's let them fight. Let's let them fight, and it never happened. All the Fangoria magazines and all that would tease us a little bit like the movie's going to get made or here's how it's going to happen. Here's the director who's going to make it happen. And it never came to fruition. We finally got it in 2002, I think it was, or three. And there was some interesting things going on here and some really poor choices, I think, by the studios. But we'll get into that a little bit. So let's talk about overall impressions. What did you think about the concept and idea of this movie?
Like for this movie, this is one that I really loved the first time I saw, but as I've gotten older, like I've found more issues with it. But it's like a fun popcorn movie. Like when Jason and Freddy are fighting, it's pretty cool. There's some good kills in this movie, and it's good on the surface, but I think if you look like beneath the surface at some things, uh, which I'm sure we'll talk about, there are some things about this one that bothered me.
Yeah, it was a concept I couldn't wait to see. I didn't see it in the theater. I saw it on DVD afterwards. I was surprised, but it takes an act of God to get me to a movie theater. I hate movie theaters, but that's just neither here nor there. But I've been waiting for this forever. I just couldn't wait for it. But the problem was it was so far past the time when the characters were popular and in modern pop culture that it was kind of almost too little too late in a way. But I will appreciate what they did. The studio threw a lot of money at this movie. And it's probably, other than maybe a remake, it's probably the best looking of the movies. It's slick and polished from a cinematography standpoint. Special effects are pretty decent throughout this movie, I'd say. And I was really hyped to see this movie when it came out on DVD. So let's just jump right into it. So we got a new intro here. We have an intro that I think is really cool and I think it keeps with a lot of the lore of the series. So, what did you think about how this movie started and was set up?
I thought the intro was awesome because you have like the little Nightmare on Elm Street homage at the beginning where Freddy's talking. It just really sets everything up. As I'm a big Elm Street fan, not as much as Jason. I think Elm Street's probably my third or fourth favorite franchise after like Halloween and maybe Child's Play 2 movies. They're really fun. So you get that cool montage at the beginning. And this movie kind of tells you what movie it is right away because Jason's having a dream about killing that girl. He takes her top off within like the first 30 seconds of the movie or whatever, runs around naked. Jason's just there and kills her and all that. So you kind of know what you're getting into right away with this movie.
Yeah, I really dig the opening of this movie. It's probably my second or third favorite opening of the
Yeah.
films because it is a total loregasm. It's like you get the Freddy lore and you get like the darker Freddy kind of version of it because he's down there in hell and he's kind of
Yes.
reciting his past badness. Get the little clip show part. And then you got like, you find out Jason's dreaming. He's a corpse, he's rotting on the ground, and he's still dreaming about killing. That's what he dreams about. And I love the part where he freaking just runs her through right through the tree. That's just like, and it also shows you how powerful he is in this movie. So we are undead Jason again, right? So just a cool opening montage. You know what the movie's about right away. Because like, okay, Freddy wants to get back into the real world. All right, spell it out in the beginning. Why not? Instead of making people guess the whole way through. And so yeah, I really dig the opening of this movie. Yeah, you got the big hooters right there at the beginning too. It's just it's so much camp on the Jason side of things. It's just great, man. But so we'll get into some more of the other bits and pieces. But yeah, one of the better openings I think for the series, and you kind of know where the movie has to go from there. So that's kind of cool setup. So let's talk about once we get past the initial credits and all that, and what do you think about the I don't want to bring him up first, but I guess you kind of have to. What do you think about the characters in this movie? Because that's what you first are basically introduced to for a lot of the movie.
I think the characters are horrendous in this movie. Like, it's one thing I noticed, like, with each watch, they get worse, obviously, aside from Freddy. But, like, all the characters are just bland and stale. Uh, Monica Keena, all of them are. They're just not. Will, he's forgettable, and then you got so many douche characters in this movie. You got the really annoying stoner guy who just gets on my nerves. Then you got the Trent, the guy who he's only in the movie 10 minutes, but oh my god, he's such a dick. Like, he's the guy who gets the bed kill, like
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning. Like,
He's more of a dick than
he's or
Trent.
Trey. I called him Trent an accident. Trey, but basically he is Trent from the Friday the 13th remake. And then the girl, I think Kia's her name or whatever, the girl from Destiny's Child, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
She's really annoying in this movie too. I actually kind of like Linderman though, the nerdy guy. Like, I kind of do dig Linderman's character. Linderman's probably the only human character that I like, unless I'm missing somebody. What do you think about the characters?
Oh boy, are they bad! I couldn't wait for Jason to get a hold of these people or Freddy, either one of them. The Linderman was okay, and I felt kind of cool when he kind of came back on whatever her name was from Destiny's Child. I can't remember. I didn't think she was.
When
By
he
the way,
when he roasted her, if you
yeah,
can see with all that makeup weighing down your face,
that was kind of funny. I was like nerd me in
that
high
was
school
an
wishing I
awesome
could say something
roast.
like that, you know. But and I didn't think she was any worse than any of the other characters in the movie. Honestly, she gets a lot of flack, but they were all bad in this. And I don't remember the
Yeah,
kid's name. What was the friend of his, Will's friend from the psych ward?
he was decent.
Yeah, he
I
was
liked
decent,
him. He was okay.
especially when it had the
I don't
scene with his
remember his
brother.
name though.
Yeah, the scene with his brother in the
That's
bathtub. That
Jason
was
right there.
that was a good scene in there. I thought with him in it, and I had
That
some.
was one of the better scenes in the movie,
I
honestly.
felt bad for him when he died, and he died hard too. But characters are freaking
That's a
awful.
good kill.
It was a really good kill, but oh, just terrible, terrible, annoying, stupid. Uh, these people, they're like the mystery machine, man. They figure everything out. They are so incredibly gifted with figuring out a mystery that has no clues given to them. It's like, okay, well, Freddy's he must be allergic to fire or afraid of fire because he died in fire. Where did they get that idea from? Where did they get the idea that Jason's afraid of water because he died in water? I mean, that's not the first
We're
thing I
gonna
would
rant
think of.
about that later. Let's not get into
Yeah,
that
that's
now
true.
because I'm gonna go off on that when we get to that.
But bland. All Monica Keena does is stare with big eyes at the camera all the time and show cleavage.
Yeah,
It's
literally.
just everyone's awful. What was his name? I can't remember her dad's name, but he's a really bad John Saxon ripoff, and he's not good at it. It's just bad. Really awful.
You get that one guy who's the cop, but you can't take him seriously. As I stop thinking of Scary Movie. A small dick's like a disability, man. Like, I cannot take him seriously in this movie.
He looks too young with his frosted hair and all that. It's like, just bad. And he makes some leaps too. But yeah, just I couldn't wait for them all to die. Sounds sadistic of me to say, but I just couldn't wait, and I was really pissed that Monica got the killing blow. But that's another story. So we've established that the intro is pretty good and the characters are really bad. So let's talk about the main two characters. Let's talk about Freddy and Jason and their portrayals in this movie. So without getting into the final part, but how do you think? I know there's a lot of people have something to say about Ken here, but how do you think Freddy and Jason were realized in this movie?
I think Freddie was outstanding because they kind of got back to like the kind of the Dream Warriors balance with him, like where like he's a little bit jokey, but like he's still scary. So I thought Fred A+ for how Freddy was handled, even though you only give him like that one kill, so Freddy doesn't really get to kill anybody. But again, this is a Friday the 13th stream, and Jason's my favorite franchise. The handling of Jason was horrendous in this movie for me because, like, I know Ronnie, you've never seen a Friday the 13th movie, and like it clearly shows because, like, I don't like anything about Jason in this movie. He has good kills, but like how he looks in the face, I don't like it. Like his like really just like how slow he is. Like he's so slow and not intimidating in this movie. Like he gets good kills, but like when Jason's blocking and moving, like he just doesn't have that intimidation factor. And the whole being afraid of water thing, it just shows that he didn't watch a movie. Like I get what they were saying, like in the dream world, subconsciously he's afraid of water, but I can't buy that because like he goes in the water in several of the movie, like in part 4 when he kills Samantha on the raft, he goes in the water. He spends the whole last act of 6 in the water whenever he's attacking Tommy. He goes into the water and drowns the girl in 7. He gets in the water and goes all the way to Manhattan in 8. Ronnie, you would know these things if he actually watched a Friday the 13th movie. So, like, I don't care that it's the dream world. Like, Jason's not going to see some trickling water and just stop in his tracks. Like, Jason's not going to be a little bitch like that. I'm sorry that I'm getting triggered, but the handling of Jason makes me really mad in this movie. Lee's here. Lee will say the same thing. Lee rants about this movie too.
Well, Lee's about to get an earful too. So Freddy was pretty good. You're right. He does kind of bridge the gap between because he got way too jokey after like part 4 and stuff. It was just ridiculous. He was just a one-liner. He's a comedian that killed people, and I didn't really enjoy that aspect of him. But he's a little darker here, and like the scene where he kills Gib or he's chasing Gib through the boiler room scene. That was a pretty tense one there. I like that one. That was pretty
Yeah,
scary on his part. So no problem, Robert Englund. He's really good at Freddy. He owns that role, of course. So there's nothing bad about that. Nothing bad to be said. Ken, I think he is a victim of circumstance. He's a victim of
yeah,
a director who, like you said, did not know the source material whatsoever. Didn't give a shit about the source material, and says, "This is how I need a giant. I need Godzilla." He even shot him like Godzilla, like walking slow motion and from lower angles, like he's this gigantic thing. Why? I mean, he's not scary when he's lumbering. He's scary when he's moving after you. The whole scene where he's butchering the kids of the rape, I hate it. It's so stupid. Every one of those kids could have got away the way this Jason moves. Uh, but what I didn't understand is I guess they're trying to make him look sympathetic. They're trying to make the crowd root for Jason somewhat, right? He's the good guy in this movie. He kills like 50 million more people than Freddy does. But they make him look sorrowful and like a lost puppy or a lost child when he's
yeah.
looking around with his big
They make him
eye.
look stupid.
It just doesn't work. I don't need to be feeling sympathy for a serial killer. I don't care what his upbringing was. It just I don't. I want to see them fight and see. I don't want an underdog. I want whoever to win just to win. So it was a bad portrayal. It was just bad looking. It was like, how does this guy sneak up on anybody? He weighs like 1,000 pounds according to the camera, and he walks like a slug. So yeah, it was just bad. Not much else to say about it. Like I said, I don't really think it was Ken's fault because he knows the character. He's been involved with the series for a while. That's just how it was. I actually talked to C.J. Graham about this in his interview because he was actually considered too for the role. And but they said the reason they didn't take Kane or him is because they wanted someone taller. I was all it was. They wanted someone to tower over Robert Englund because he's around 6 foot. So they wanted someone with at least 6 inches or something on him. So that was the whole reason we got Gigantor freaking Jason, and it didn't work. It didn't work. I did like a few shows of his power, like when he like impaled the girl in the tree with the machete and ran right through the tree. That was really cool, ridiculous but cool. It didn't make sense later on when he slashed the girl and she flew across the woods or whatever.
Yeah, we'll get there.
But
I'm gonna
yeah, we'll
go
we'll talk
there
about the kills
too.
here in a bit. But yeah, so just bad characters other than Freddy. Basically everyone in this movie was bad other than Freddy for the most part. So, but yeah, I will say this: they did try to give the fans what they were expecting from these characters. Most of their character traits were intact. Slower, lumbering Jason, invulnerable to pain. At least he didn't make any noise, and the wisecacking, a little more crafty Freddy. So There's a mixed bag there, 50-50, but for the most part, pretty bad for that because we see a lot more Jason than Freddy. So since we already broached the subject, let's talk about the kills in this movie. A slick Hollywood production is probably gonna have some pretty good kills, and by this point, the MPA had freaking got off their freaking menstrual cycle and was freaking actually wanting to let movies get out there and get made. So, what are your take on the deaths in this movie?
They're kind of a mixed bag because you got like a top 10 kill in the franchise, like the bed kill at the beginning, like Jason stabs that guy, like his heart falls out and he puts the bed up. That one's really good. I really like that as well. And there's a couple others that, like it's not Jason kill, but the Freddy kill, like with his brother in the bathtub and then Freddy putting the thing on his back and killing him. That's a really good kill. They have a couple others that are solid that maybe are slipping my mind that you'll bring up in a minute. But I feel like as I've gotten older, like there's some bad CGI moments in this movie that look awful. Like, do you remember the cornfield kill where he twists the guy's head
Yeah,
around and it looks terrible? And the one you mentioned earlier, he hits him with a machete and they fly all over the place. Like when they use too much CGI, they should have went more practical because there's like a lot of CGI that really stands out like a sore thumb to me and looks really bad when I watch this movie.
Nightmare Dog, by the way, if you have not yet, we appreciate you hanging in for as long as you have. Um, the kills in this movie are kind of hit or miss. There's some good ones to be
Yeah,
had. The bed kill is good for. I actually like the violence before the bed because the bed's a little bit goofy, but it is
yeah,
violent too. He freaking just he goes ham on that guy with that machete. He just up and down. He basically screwing him with it. But I like the one too where he cuts a stoner in half. That one's really cool. He just flies in two different
yeah. That
pieces.
that one's good too.
And that's why the other one doesn't make any sense with Kelly Rowland or whatever flying across.
Yeah.
They like the wire work in this movie a lot. There's so much wire work, it's ridiculous in this movie. But it's really a mixed bag. Yeah, I don't know. I'd rate it right in the middle as far as kills go. You think with the
Yeah.
budget it had and the less restrictions it had from the MPA that they would just go hog wild with it, but they don't really. It's not really that gory movie until the very, very, very end, and even then, it's kind of cartoonish gore. You know what I mean? It's not like cringe-inducing gore. Like the scene where the coroner eats the heart, I think is way gorier than anything this movie does. This one's kind of like horror for teenagers, like young teenagers. So
Yeah. Well said.
yeah, some of the kills, like other than the bed ones, are mostly nondescript. You got a lot of impalements, you got some beheadings and things like that. So there's a couple of good ones, but for the most part, I'd say it's a little bit weak. But there's some good to be had. I'm not gonna say it's all bad. So so not too bad in the kill department, I guess. So we've talked about a lot of things that are mostly bad. Let's talk a little bit about the story before we get into the final act. So let's talk about not just the premise, but what do you think of the overall story of this movie?
I'm not going to nitpick the story because you could nitpick the whole Crystal Lake, Elm Street geography thing. Like when they're driving there, I've heard people nitpick that, but I'm not going to nitpick that because like it's so hard to get a cohesive story that could put these two characters together. And I think the story is like really well written because they on Crystal Lake Memories they interview the guys that wrote the story, and like they even said the Jace they didn't write that Jason being afraid of water bullshit. Like they said they didn't write that like in their script. Like that was like a stupid like Ronnie Yu decision there. But uh, I thought the story was really good. I thought it could have been executed a little bit better, honestly. Not to say it was executed bad, but I definitely think that Ronnie Yu could have done a better job. And just FYI, I know Lee does it. Lee hates Bride of Chucky. Bride of Chucky gets Lee triggered, but I think Ronnie Yu did a lot better job with Bride of Chucky than he did with this movie, in my opinion.
It for me the story was kind of cool. Execution was
Yeah,
pretty poor, but it was kind of cool. It's kind of like a homage. What was it? Was it Freddy's Dead when he was trying to get people to remember him again so he could actually manifest himself. So
yeah,
they kind of repeated
yeah.
that a little bit, but that's also keeping with the lore. So it's kind of a piece of fan service there.
And they brought back Hypnosil from
Mm-hmm.
part three.
Yep. Well, it was barely even seen in that movie or talked about, but it was there. It was on a little pill bottle or something. Was it Nancy had, I think. But
Yes.
it was cool fan service. It's like, what a great idea. It's like, okay, he finds Jason in hell, and Jason's too stupid to know he's being manipulated. So I'm gonna send him to real world because he can regenerate, kill for me. Uh, I'll get blamed because he kills him in Elm Street, and then I can come back. Kind of cool, right? Um, I love the imagery and scenery of the kids like sleeping and getting all drugged up and all that, and laying comatose in that one lab. That was probably the best shot in the movie for me. I love that. And then they all sit up at once. That was kind of cool, but it's getting off topic. But so I didn't have a really problem with the story itself, other than the freaking Scooby Doo crew solving every mystery so fast. It was ridiculous. But so I got no problems with the story. Execution was bad, but they did try to keep some character traits and pay some fan service to the flicks. So it wasn't just while this movie was all about the fight. At least there was some lead up that made sense to why they were fighting and how they got together. So uh, I give pretty good marks to the story. Just like I said,
Yeah.
the director didn't know what to do with it that well. So yeah, that's a whole other subject. We'll get into that real quick right here. Ronnie Yu, you already mentioned this. He had never seen a Friday 13th movie. What director doesn't watch at least a few of them before he goes in there? When there's that much history behind a series, you'd think he would take the time, spend an afternoon watching these movies. What do you think about his
That's the
vision?
That's the bare minimum. Like, I feel like if you're directing a movie that's had that many movies, you would at least watch them once and like take a note. Like, I would pride myself on being an expert. Like, look at like Never Hike Alone. Like, they did a fan film, and I feel like what they did was more respectful to Jason's like lore than what this movie did. I thought Freddy was handled pretty well. But I think like Jason was straight handled garbage, and to give you an idea, do you collect like any of the NECAs, like
No,
the
but
action figures?
I know Super Rust does though, but I don't really have any figurines of them.
This will give you an idea of how I feel about Jason in this movie. Here's the ones I own. I own Part Two, Part Three, Part Four, Roy Part Five, Part Six, and the remake. I've seen the Freddy versus Jason like 5 times, and I'm not buying it. Like, I'm not playing games. I'm dead serious.
I think they hired Ronnie because of his action background, and I think all they had their eyes on was the final act. I think that's all they cared about. And so it's like, I think this guy will
Yes,
make a slick,
it
polished
shows,
final act,
dude.
and I don't care about the rest of it. The filler, well, the writers take care of that, and the B team can go film all that stuff. But so he was just the wrong choice. I will say there was a couple things I did like in this movie that he did. I like the color changes he did between the Jason and the Freddy
Yeah,
worlds. A lot of people give that hell.
yeah,
I
that
like
was
that.
really cool.
The different lighting,
Yeah, I
the
was,
blues and the greens for Jason, like the watercolors and the reds and stuff for the Freddy. I like the demon Freddy that jumps out of the water at the end. I think that looks so cool. That wire work there,
yeah, that was cool.
very dreamy. That's something you would see in a dream sequence. And the final act was, I think, pretty well done as far as the battle royale. He gave a lot of fan service there too, but everything else. Whew, he was the wrong man for that job. That should have been a two-director film. One director handles the first three-fourths of the movie, and then Ronnie comes in for the final act. A director who knows the source material. So, but anyway, that's enough bashing on Ronnie, I guess. So, all right, we're getting down to it now. So, the final act of this movie is basically two different throwdowns. Um, for those of you who haven't seen it, I'm sure all you here probably have, but you got the Dream World showdown, then you got the Real World showdown. So go ahead and run us through the final act and what you thought of both encounters.
I didn't love the Dream World encounter, but I didn't necessarily hate it either. Like the whole part where Jason's afraid of water, like I understand they're going for like subconsciously he's afraid of water, but it doesn't make sense, and it makes Jason look like a total pussy when there's like a stream of water, and then he stops, and then like he turns into little kid Jason. What were they, homage? In part 8 or something. Oh wait, they couldn't because Ronnie, you never even watched the
Mm.
Friday the 13th movie. He turns back into kid Jason. Freddy's bullying him. You have Freddy pinballing Jason everywhere. Like, I get it's the dream world, but I don't like they established in the Elm Street movies that Freddy's power is based on like how afraid you are of him. And I don't buy that like Jason would be afraid enough of Freddy for Freddy to be able to like push him around like that. Or they also say Freddy's powers come from the souls of the children. What, the soul of like the one guy that you killed in this movie? Like, come on. I'm sorry, I'm like really biased towards Jason in this movie. But what do you think of the Dream World one? Dream World fight.
If you could take that pinball scene out of there, it would have been much better.
Yeah, the pinball scene is so cringe.
That was when
Oh,
they were trying to channel Freddy from his funny movies again, and that was like, it's like, this belongs
yeah.
in Freddy's Dead. This does not belong in this movie.
You're so right. I never really thought of that, but you're so right. Like the video game
Yeah,
scene
he could have
and
put the
all
power glove
that.
on
Oh
again
my
and been right at home, but it was just that part, because it was cool. Other than that, it was cool to see. It's like, okay, Jason's going to be really outmatched here. At least he should be. But it also makes sense what you're saying. It's like, why is Freddy so strong here all of a sudden? He should be. You're still weak in the dream world, and I like the fact that even though he's getting the crap beat out of him, he still keeps coming back after Jason. And the one of the few times he looks completely badass in this movie, Jason runs up, he's up those stairs, he's like, boom, boom, boom. And he raises that machete like he's just going to rip Freddy apart. And then that's when the water thing happens and ruins everything. It makes zero sense. It's like he couldn't just keep walking through that water. He's so scared of a little bit of water. What happens when it rains out there at Crystal Lake? Does he just curl into a fetal position and stop doing whatever it is he does? Does he go in the tunnel system like he does in Remake? I mean, I don't know what goes on, but
Oh my god.
2 steps to the right or left, and he could get around this stupid water. And that was just so ridiculous. And then that's when it really gets kind of weird. And I think Lieberman actually references this. He's like, then you're kind of paid, or you kind of get the idea that Freddy was a counselor at that point and killed Jason in the subconscious. Well, I mean, I don't know, whatever. But the scene was somewhat cool in the fact that, okay, this is Freddy's territory. He's going to be dominant. It looks good to see Jason get thrown around like a rag doll. And you're right, though, too. It was weird because, like, if no one's afraid of Freddy, once again, where's he getting his power from? Jason's not afraid of this guy. He's dead, undead Jason. He fears nothing. He feels nothing. And then, like, in the older movies, Freddy would feel pain and be, like, completely thrown off for just a few seconds, like when something unexpected happens. Like in part 4, like when she shoots him with the ray gun or whatever, it actually hurts him for a few seconds, and then he comes back. But it's like things that, like, surprise him, he feels it. Like when he first gets his arm cut off, it seems to bother him in this one. But the scene is mostly good, but they ruin it with, like, two big problems with the water fear scene, and then the pinball thing was just completely ridiculous. That was so stupid.
But yeah, see, Ronnie, you had never watched a Freddy movie either, so he doesn't understand how Freddy's power level works. But I get it, like you need to have Freddy win in the dream world for it to be a good movie, and I'm okay with Freddy winning if it's executed a little bit better, like Freddy winning in the dream world. But it was so like poorly executed. I do like the idea that like Freddy does get in his head, and like the whole scene with Jason being bullied and drowned. I do buy like that is something that would bother Jason subconsciously, like because he was bullied his whole life because he had a deformed face, and then like when Freddy taunts him in that part, I do actually like that, and I do buy that that would be realistic for Jason, but not him being afraid of water. Like, no, sorry.
Yeah, that was just ridiculous. You know what could have made it even cooler is, like, if he would have stayed, like, disguised as Pamela and just beat the living piss out of Jason, and Jason wouldn't fight back
Oh,
because it's his mother. That would have been awesome. They missed that
and
boat
that would
there.
have been homage to part two. Like,
Yeah, Jenny.
yes.
Because
Oh,
Jason wouldn't fight
that
back.
would have been so cool.
So they didn't really play in the mental aspect of what he could do in that realm too much. But so anyway, so it's important. But when I first saw the movie, I'm like, okay, well, that's the fight. This is what they're going to do with it. And even if it goes on further, that's all we're going to get. Because, a lot of movies will tease you for a big fight, and then you don't really get too much. So I was like, okay, they gave us, 5 minutes of a fight later. That's something, I guess. It's better than nothing. So I did not expect the last act to be like it was. And so before I get into it, what was your thoughts on the final battle royale between two horror icons?
I'm going to rant
Oh, it's
because
coming.
this is one of my problems with the Elm Street franchise. There's no fucking way Freddy is going to be able to put up a fight against Jason in the real world. Freddy gets owned by a lot of Home Alone bullshit with Nancy in the first movie. Like, Freddy gets his ass kicked by Home Alone, traps, and Nancy. And then Freddy's dead. He gets brought out in the real world and killed like 5 minutes later. Like, he cannot stand toe to toe with Jason in the real world. And then they have all this stuff happening, and like those like torpedo things are like coming right for Jason, and he's just standing there. Like, they do so many things to like make Jason look stupid. Like, you give me part 6 Jason and throw him in this movie, like he would beat Freddy in the real world in like not in like 1 minute, and then it's over. Like I get you want to make a close fight, but like I don't buy it. Like if their final fight would have been in the dream world or whatever, that's fine. But like they can't realistically have a close fight in the real world with zombie Jason. I don't buy it.
Yeah, it was like, okay, here's the problem. If you want to go back and be a nitpicker, Freddy was dead within the first 30 seconds because Jason grabs him. Why didn't he just kill him right there? He runs him through all those windows and all that, and he throws him through the other house. He could have just reached down and twisted his head clean off at that point. He had him right where he wanted him. His machete's right there. He could have done myriad things. So yeah, they had to pad it out, right? And they wanted to make Jason the bullet sponge, and they did. He takes a freaking assload of punishment in this. Um, but wow, I'll say this: it does not disappoint. If you want to see like a bloodbath and some people taking blows, yeah, it makes no sense once again about Freddy being able to do all this in the real world. He's nothing but a regular dude, and Jason obviously is made out to be Godzilla. And once again, in this movie, so it's like he goes all ninja. When did Freddy get ninja freaking moves too? He does a lot of ninjaing in this movie. It's kind of strange. But basically, he gets the upper hand basically on Jason in the real world. I mean, if you think about it, for the damage it gets done overall to Jason is way more than what happens to Freddy until the very, very, very end of it. So yeah, that part was pretty goofy, but blood, just gallons of blood fly here. Pyrotechnics everywhere. There's some goofiness to be had. Don't get me wrong. That freaking whose idea was that with the oxygen tanks or whatever? That was so stupid. Damn
So, oh
torpedoes.
my god, it's bad.
That was cringe. I guess the old work site was kind of a cool setup. I like the rebar jumping all through them or being punctured all through them, but it
Yeah,
was just so over the top, kind of ridiculous in a way that it's satisfying in one way because you get to see an actual throwdown that is probably worthy of cinema, but it's just so you got to turn your brain off and forget who Freddy is. You got to think of Freddy still in the dream world to be standing a chance that he's doing. But they just destroy each other physically. It's something to see at the end because at the very end they're going kind of almost kissing. They're so close together and they're just ripping pieces of each other off, and it's something to see. But then Freddy kind of wins, right? I mean, he's the one walking
he's
at the
winning
end.
like the whole fight.
Yep.
Honestly, the only reason he dies is because Monica Kina saves Jason. Basically,
Yeah, I don't know. So it had its good points because I'll tell you what, they did try to please audiences with a big long fight, and they could have just
yeah,
cheesed out and made it like 2 or 3 hits, and it could have been over, and not really giving the fans or the audience a good fight. So they went through great pains to make it a long, brutal fight, and it did
yeah.
that. So like a lot of this movie, it's like one good thing here and one bad thing. I mean, as far as lore goes, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous and stupid. But as far as I guess a final fight, it's not too bad, and they do some interesting things. And like I said, they just beat the living crap out of each other, so that's kind of fun to watch. Kanan getting the killing blow is the stupidest idea they get it friggin' done in this. Oh my gosh, that was dumb. I guess it gives her some sort of closure.
Welcome to my world, bitch.
Jason or Freddy was weird. He had to say bitch like 5 times or 6 times in this movie. They overdid it with that too. That was so strange. But they made him really a creep in this movie. But why? Why did it have to be hurt? Why'd she have to cut his head off? It's just so stupid. I mean, just he already had his arm shoved through. He was a goner. It's like let Jason have the final blow for goodness sake. But no, they couldn't even do that. They had to give the mannequin model freaking her moment to shine while their boyfriend's just laying down there watching everything
Yeah.
happen. So lame. But anyway, so let's talk about the ending of this movie, and we'll go ahead and wrap things up. So, what do you think about the actual ending of this movie?
It's good because it shows Jason base because he's carrying Freddy's head. Freddy can wink all he wants. He has no body and he's in the real world. So it's over for him. But I like the ending because it basically shows Jason winning. And it's just fun. Like you said, the last battle goes on for a long time and it's good popcorn fun for me. Definitely.
It was kind of cool because at least you could imagine at least one of the characters taking all that damage in a fight. Like most movies, you don't really start believing after they've been fighting for 5 minutes and cutting themselves and punching each other. Like Jason can handle it, so that kind of made sense. But And it was cool that they showed a definitive winner, even though it wasn't definitive because of the stupid wink. But if you'd even noticed, Jason's fingers were still gone too. Um, so that was a nice little touch. He hadn't regenerated those yet. So um, yeah, it was okay ending. Not too bad, but definitely set up a sequel. It's definitely sequel bait, that's for sure, which never came to be. But so yeah, I got no real problems with ending other than giving the killing blow to Monica. That was the stupidest thing. And then she looks down in the water like she's sad that Jason's dying all of a sudden. It's like, why? Is he your like long lost cousin or something? Why do you care that
He
he's
killed
dying?
all your friends because he killed like everybody in this movie. Freddy kills like one person.
Yeah, yeah, Lee, she did. She called him that, and apparently she got some flack for it on the set too. Like, it's not the place to be yelling that around, but
You couldn't get away with that
no,
today. In
no.
today's climate, you couldn't get away with that today.
But so let's go ahead and wrap up the final awards or score on this. So, what do you think of this movie overall?
Okay, so as a Friday the 13th movie, it's probably bottom five for me. I don't think it's as bad as Jason Takes Manhattan, but it's slow. But if I can watch, if I try to watch it and take my Jason anger out of the equation and rank it as a Freddy movie, I think it's actually maybe like top five in that area as a Freddy movie. Just because I don't think there's that many great Elm Street movies. Like to me, other people might disagree, but I think there's only three great Elm Street movies, and that's part one, part three, and part four. New Nightmare's good, but New Nightmare's not one that and part two's okay, part five's bad, Freddy's Dead's bad, the remake's bad. So I look at this movie a lot higher as a Freddy movie than I do as a Jason movie.
Yeah, I have to agree with that.
Yeah.
Freddy, Nightmare movies are really strange because they were like effects movies and horror movies at the same time, and they started going way too comedic for my taste. Part four was the good bridge because the effects were just
Yeah.
incredible in that movie, by the way, and I liked the characters and everything, and I think it was a pretty fun flick. It was my favorite one growing up. But like one and three actually had some scare factor to them, which was nice, especially the first one. And everyone after that was just awful. Dream Child was awful. Freddy's Dead was beyond awful. New Nightmare tried some cool things. They tried to make a Dark Freddy, but it just was too slow, I think, and it just didn't really work that
Yeah.
well. It was a good idea. It just, I don't know. It was just weird. It was like a rehash almost of Freddy's Dead with the Demon chasing out, but whatever.
I
Or
smell
Demon
a
Freddy.
Nightmare on Elm Street franchise live stream in the future.
It can happen. I have to review the series anyway. Some people have asked me to. But overall, this movie, you got to shut your brain off. Again, this is another one you got to turn your brain off like Jason X and take it at face value. It's a lot easier to watch this movie if you're not a fanboy of the series, because then it's just kind of a slick, polished horror action movie. I will say the movie looks really good from a visual standpoint. Most of the makeup effects are pretty decent. Some bad CGI, but that's to be expected from the time. Uh, Big, long, protected fight at the end. I guess if you're into that sort of thing, it's not too bad. It was kind of nice to see them beat the hell out of each other, I guess, as
Yeah.
nonsensical as it was. It's hard to watch the movies or parts of the movie where they're not in it, though. Oh my gosh, just watching those teens run around and tell backstory of themselves was just unbearable. Man, this is like one of those movies that's made for DVD where you can just skip to certain scenes, basically the fight scenes and some of the kills. Because this movie is just almost unwatchable in the middle part. It's just bad because there's a pretty
Agree.
big dip in stuff going on in the middle parts of this movie. I enjoy it somewhat though. Just not the fanboy part of me, but just the movie watcher part of me. It's decent. I'd put it in the middle of the
It's
pack,
fine.
and it is easier to watch than some of the older ones that aren't as fun to watch. Like it's hard for me to watch the original sometimes because it's just so slow.
Yeah.
Um, and it's not saying it's a bad movie. It's harder for me to watch that movie, and I would watch this any day over Part 8 and probably Part 9. Just because there's some things that are cool about it. Cool idea for a story. Freddy's really good in this. You don't see a whole lot of like him in action. Uh, if you can just look past, if you can just edit out the teenagers to the middle portion, it's not nearly as bad a movie. But it definitely smacks of a Hollywood funded cash grab, and the fact that Ronnie was the wrong man for the job. They should just let him direct the action scenes on the B unit or whatever, and then been done with it, and then had a real fan of the series do the directing of the other parts. So I'll still rate it middle of the road. It could have been so much more, and it would have been nice if they would have made a sequel, especially without Keenan in it. But it is what it is. We finally got the fight, so I guess we couldn't complain too much. But yeah, so that's what it was. Like I said, middle of the road.
So
For
true. That's kind of true, Lee.
Yeah, I mean that's the best part. Anytime that the protagonists are on screen, I mean that's usually the case for any of the movies. But there's some interesting things to be had in the other movies that don't involve Jason. You know,
Yep.
it doesn't always have to be on there killing something, but it really helps in this movie. I was just loving it every time he got a hold of one of those teenagers because I was so happy to see him stop. I was ashamed. I was ashamed that Will didn't bite it too, but whatever. Um, so I guess we'll go ahead and start wrapping up there. So let's talk about this now. Human and zombie Jasons. I'm taking you prefer the human side of the equation, right? Yeah.
Definitely.
Most of the movies seem better on the human side of Jason as well than zombie. I mean, it was cool. It was cool to have zombie Jason, but I like the human iterations much better. Most of the movies tended to be better too. I think. All right,
Yeah, I
so
think they did. I want to see a new Jason movie with zombie Jason and like really give it some care. And I think like that could really like be a really good movie. Like we just haven't had very good execution on a lot of the zombie Jason movies.
see, I would like to see a zombie Jason movie. Give it like a middle budget. Give it like 20 million. You don't have to give it like 60 million, like remake it. Just don't let them use CGI. Make them use practical effects, and I would be a happy man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's hard to get anybody to do that because they always want to take the lazy, easy way out and use CGI nowadays. It makes me so mad with horror movies. They just want to be lazy with it.
yeah. So I mean, so I'd like to see him get like the middle ground because you make a damn good movie for $20 million. It looks really good, or even $10 million. So give him the budget and give it to someone who wants to direct the series, who has ideas for it, and they can do reimagining of like part 6 or part 7, whatever. I'd probably like to see part 7 redone, but with the same makeup effects, same good looking makeup effects. But yeah, so I definitely enjoy the human movies more in the series. And what would you say your top 3 are overall then? So before we wrap this up right now.
I'm gonna give you my top four, because my number three, number four are close. My number one is definitely part four, final chapter. My number two is most definitely part six, Jason Lives. Then my three and four can flip flop. But really, for now, part three, with the barn and all that's my number three, and then part two with Psychhead Jason is my number four.
Yeah, that's a pretty good list. I'm actually flip flopping on my first one, but I'm gonna say first. We'll go ahead and I'll just make a definitive answer. 4 is my favorite Friday to watch. 6 is the best movie I think of the bunch, but I'll make that my second one as far as Fridays goes to watch. 3 would have to probably be 2. I'd probably say part 2 is my third favorite of the series, just because it
Yeah, part two is
was.
amazing.
I think of all the movies, that one jumped up in quality the most between that and the previous film. And honorable
It's got
mention.
like high quality characters, and then a good like woods atmosphere to it. Part
Hmm.
two had a great final girl. Part two has a lot of good stuff to offer.
Yep, had a nice look to it. I love the cinematography of that movie. And honorable mention is Jason X. It's because I love that movie so much. But so that's it. So that is our take. So make sure to get over to Derek's channel and check out our first of the live streams of this series. Actually, I think it's one longer than that one did. Probably because I ramble on so long.
Yeah, yeah. On my channel, we have last week's. What it was me and you, and it was Corey,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Corey from CDR, and we talked like the first five movies, parts one through five, and the remake. And anybody who's still there who subbed, I appreciate, because I saw notifications since I've done this stream. Genome, I think I got like 3 subs
Cool.
off of this stream, so I really appreciate everybody who subbed. And if you're watching, you haven't subbed yet, make sure you sub. I'm pushing hard for 400. I'm going to get my 400 subs for too long.
I hear you there. All right, so I think we've dissected the Friday 13th series pretty well. Maybe if we get some demand, we'll go ahead and do another horror series. I'm gonna review. I'm not sure if I'm gonna review Halloween next in its entirety or Nightmare on Elm Street. I haven't figured out my next saga. Maybe I'll let the
You
crowd
should
pick.
probably do Elm Street. You should probably save Halloween till like closer to the new movie, because
Mm,
then that'll really like blow up for you. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do like Halloween Revisited on like because my reviews are old and I could really up the quality.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna do that like closer to Halloween. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Elm Street movies. Those would be some awesome reviews.
I haven't seen those in quite a while, so yeah, maybe I'll do Elm Street next. That's been a while. I have to go buy the series. I don't have them on DVD or anything, so like I have to have DVD so I can pull clips. But all right, so we'll go ahead and wrap up the show now. But I really appreciate everyone who hung out and chat with us for this many hours and listen to us just ramble on as fanboys that we are about a series that's near and dear to both of our hearts. You know, I grew up with these movies. My best friends and I, we watched these nonstop all the time, every chance we could get, and it's just so fun to come back and find out people have such a love for the series. So, hey, Derek, I really appreciate you being on the show tonight. Appreciate you helping kind of set things up, and we didn't have any other guests like we planned on. I think it came out okay with just the two of us kind of going on about it.
It was a blast. We had such good conversation. We really went in depth on all the movies, so it was fun.
Indeed. So, all right. So, unless anyone else in the stream or in the comments has anything else to add or want to hear, we're going to go ahead and get on out. I'll let Derek get to his Friday evening, and I guess I'll go say hi to my wife as well. So I didn't really talk to her since she's been home from work. But all right, so yeah, it looks like it's pretty much goner. So night, Russ. Good night, Lee. I'm not sure who else is still in there. Perry may still be in there. I didn't say hi to you when you
Super
popped in.
Russ.
Yep. Oh, Russ is always there, man. He's my bulwark, man. Russ is a great guy. And he has a great collection of figurines. You two probably get along well in that fact. So, anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to not only my channel, but to Derek's channel as well, if you're not already and watching this on the rebound. Let us know in the comments below what you think of our grades and our scores for each of these movies. And like I said, go back and check out the live stream on Derek's channel from last week to see all the human Jason movies and see what our thoughts were there. So, all right, Derek, unless you had something else to say, I'll go ahead and close it out right now.
Go ahead and close it out. Good night, everyone.
All right, it's been real. So once again, thanks again for watching, and stay tuned for some more horror movie reviews coming up. And if you want to see horror movies, go over to Derek's channel, and he's got them all there. So anyway, this is Derek and Genome out.